That's the chalk.
Good evening, and welcome to the October 2nd meeting of the Historic District Commission. This is our first meeting of this month. We will have another meeting next week. I will start off by introducing the group we have today. To the far right, I have our alternate, Larry Booz.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Dr. Dan Brown.
Good evening.
Martin Ryan.
Good evening.
Vice Chair Margot Doring.
Hello.
I'm Chair Reagan Rudig. We have Isaac Gilbo from the Planning Department.
Good evening.
And John Wyckoff.
Good evening.
And then hopefully Rich Blaylock, our City Council representative, will be joining us at some point. I haven't heard that he wasn't going to be here, so. All right. The board's action in these matters has been deemed to be quasi-judicial in nature. If any person believes any member of the board has a conflict of interest, that issue should be raised at this point or it will be deemed waived. All right, let's get started on the administrative approvals. We have 9. Does anybody need to recuse themselves from any of the administrative approvals? You do?
Is Market Street the, my gosh.
31?
31 Market.
31 Market?
Yeah. Yeah, that is the address. Okay, you're right. Thank you.
You have to step out for that one? Okay.
Okay.
All right.
You want to do that first?
Sure, it's number 1 anyway.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, 1 second. Let me get my screen shared. Okay, so administrative approval, item number 1 is 31 Market Street. This is an after-the-fact request to the commission. The applicant here initially was going in to do a roof swap out in kind. When they got there, they realized that the existing rubber roofing was just not a material that was feasible for this type of a roof. So they did go ahead and change that out to asphalt shingles. It's very difficult, if at all visible, or to see from a public way. The second change is that when they were removing the gutter, the existing gutter sort of disintegrated. It broke apart into several pieces. They were able to keep the downspout, but they did have to replace that copper gutter. Typically that is an in-kind replacement, but it was part of the overall project. The third and final item is the trim board that you see behind the gutter itself. They did actually replace that from a wood material to a PVC material. It's painted white, and again, it's very difficult, if at all, possible to see from a public way. Does the commission have any questions on the changes that were made here? Okay, we will need a vote on this one, and then we can move on to the remainder of the admin approvals.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. Larry, you can join us. Welcome, Mr. Blaylock. And Larry, you will be voting for us tonight, right? Yes, because
You said yes?
not here. Yes, so you'll be voting
Just missed
on everything unless
Administrative.
Mr. Adams miraculously gets better.
Rich, will you need to recuse yourself from any of the remaining items 2 through 9? Okay, perfect. All right, so that will bring us right down to administrative approval, item number 2, which is 95 Daniel Street. This project has been before the commission for a certificate of approval. The applicant is seeking approval here for a very small 1-story rear sort of entry addition to the property. So as you can see, the previously approved addition on the rear, and this would just sort of fill in on the side slightly. And that would be using all of the similar materials that have already been approved for the rest of the structure. And does the commission have any sort of further questions? It's a fairly simple addition with just the singular doorway. Okay, great.
What do we have for a door? Is that listed in here?
Let me see.
Composite trim.
For the new door on the addition, will that be a reuse of an existing door somewhere or one that's matching that was previously approved? I think we have Mark here.
Steve Bannon.
Good evening, Mark from McHenry Architecture. That's going to be a new door on the back. I don't know if anyone's been by. It's going to be very similar to the new door that's on the front of 99 at the moment. So it'll be a new solid wood door with side lights.
Okay. I guess, do you have a spec sheet that you can just forward to Isaac so
Sure.
that we can have it on record, please?
Definitely.
Okay.
All right.
So it's very similar? Is that the same?
Sorry.
It is very similar.
Similar to the one that was just installed next door at 99?
So it's going to be the same as the one that's installed next door?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 3 is 37 Hanover Street. The applicant here is seeking approval for the installation of an aluminum gutter system with downspouts. As you can see, they have outlined where the gutters would be placed on the building and also where the downspouts will be placed. And again, they are just proposing to use a sort of white aluminum case style, which would match the trim work on the building.
Great.
And
So
do we
this
have-
is,
oh,
so
sorry,
it
go
is
ahead.
going up and down the corners of the brick building that has no white trim up and down the corners.
We could stipulate, excuse me, yes, that those downspouts get painted to blend in with the brick, which I believe
Really?
we've done in other cases.
Yes. Yes, John?
I kind of disagree. I'm thinking that it, because it's white with white trim, that it adds something to the corners of the building. That's my opinion.
Any other opinions?
Just a question, there's no gutter at this point?
I did not have an actual spec. I was told by the applicant it would be a K-style aluminum.
No, I mean currently on the building.
Oh, sorry, currently, no. There's not an existing gutter system. I was told that there was one at some point, and that it had been removed. We could not find photographic evidence of that.
Okay.
And,
you.
and is the gutter going on
Downspout
top
she
of the
wants to paint.
dentil?
Yes. So,
So it's going to obscure that?
no, it's
Going to,
just going to be above the dentals.
in that little spot up underneath? Okay. And they've kind of obscured it with
Yep.
the drawing.
It's hard to see. All right, well, anybody else feel strongly about painting these downspouts one way or the other?
No, I have no objection if it's the board that wants to have them painted brick color.
And that would just be for the
For the down
for the
leaders?
downspouts on the
Just the downspout.
right.
On the brick building, right?
Yeah.
Not-
Right, exactly. And that's just if we wanted to stipulate that.
We could stipulate that they're painted red to blend in with the brick, or just remain white.
Okay.
Yep, either way.
And
Any further questions, though, on? Okay.
I would leave it up to the owner.
Okay.
so we have the option.
Upset me much.
Item number 4 is 85 Daniel Street. The applicant here is seeking approval for a minor modification to the rear porch posts and the rear entry stair. So as we can see, they have just been modified slightly here into a single post there. Does anyone have sort of further clarification questions? Nope? Okay.
I think it's a simpler, probably a much simpler design to access, let alone look at, so.
Sure.
I think they're fine.
Okay. Great. Item number 5 is 11 Meeting House Hill Road. The applicant here is seeking approval for hardscape and landscaping for the rear yard. Typically, a lot of times this wouldn't need to come to the commission. There are a few components that do rise above the 18-inch threshold for our purview. Not very many, but they are planning to use a sort of several different stones and sort of materials to create their backyard and new stairs as well. some curbing, and then we do have a site plan right here. So it will sort of essentially be the entire existing rear
Front
yard.
yard.
Do we know how much, if any of this is pervious? The
I
thought
bel-
about drainage?
I believe in the plan, it does say that some of the materials are permeable. However, I would need to maybe look at some of the product sheets a little bit more. However, we do at least have some breakup of material where there will be
Right.
some water infiltration available. This will need to be reviewed potentially by additional boards just for building coverage, and those types of things will come up as well.
Looks like they're taking over the yard with very little grass left.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There is one page from Rye Beach Landscaping that says, there's like a lower, upper, but it says permeable installation, permeable installation, permeable installation
Yep.
for the
And
bluestone.
Right.
that refers to the installation, so there's like some space between the pavers.
Yeah,
It doesn't
yeah, so it's
necessarily mean-
semi-permeable, it's
Yeah,
not.
so it doesn't mean the
I
pavers
get it.
themselves are permeable, but,
Better than hot top.
They're not gluing them
Right.
together though,
Right.
because I know sometimes they can.
right.
Right. Yep.
Okay, great.
All right.
Any other
Yep.
questions or issues with that? Okay.
Okay. So item number 6 is 25 Penn Hollow Street. The applicant here is seeking approval for the installation of a wall-mounted condenser. So the location would be sort of just below, but in between the two upper level windows. There's an example of the LG system that they would be installing, and they've also have given us a proposed wood screening option as well to help mitigate the visibleness of that. Does anyone have further questions?
Did they indicate how they were going to finish the screening? Paint, wood?
Of the stage.
They did not indicate whether they would leave it
Natural.
natural or paint. If we feel strongly one way or the other, we can always, stipulate that it's painted to maybe blend in with the brick wall, or that we leave it a natural wood if that makes more sense.
When I was out to see them, I ran into the owner, and they're
Oh, okay.
planning on painting it.
Oh,
Yeah.
very good.
Reddish,
Backside
brickish.
from-
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Great.
Thank you for that.
yeah.
Could I ask a question about, I'm
Sure.
not sure about the exact location on this. Could you,
I'm glad somebody else said that.
Yeah, can you zoom in and circle it?
Oh, yes, of course.
Kind of with
Sorry.
your cursor?
Yep.
Yeah,
I think
it's on the inside of the property.
yeah, so on the inside, you have to go all the way around and all the way
So
around.
it
yeah.
would be located
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
in this area
Yeah.
right
Can you see?
here.
Where it's
Yeah,
I'm good.
in between, yeah,
Yes,
Yep.
beneath those windows.
I'm good.
Okay, great.
Those nice birdhouses.
It's a nice birdhouse.
Okay.
Who's going to do one of those? Yeah, it's still-
That will bring us to item 7, which is 39 Holmes Court. This project has been before the commission for certificate of approval. They were originally approved for Green Mountain windows. The applicant is now seeking to change that to a Marvin window as listed here, and that would be for all of the approved Green Mountain windows. It would be a direct swap out, same size, detailing just the manufacturer. The second and additional change is that on the upper level, there is a need for a rescue balcony. That is due to fire code, as it is difficult to get the larger engines down the narrow street of Holmes Court. So the fire department has indicated that they would need to do a rescue balcony, which is just a life safety measure. This particular balcony is a little bit larger than what is necessary by code, so that's why it's before us. Otherwise, it being life safety would be something that we would typically move on with. And then the actual dimensions were given below. Does anyone have further questions on 39 Holmes Court?
Nope.
Great. That brings us to item Number 8, which is 491 Marcy Street. If you all remember, the applicants were here just last month for a sizable renovation project at their property. What they have found as part of the re-roofing and sort of further renovation on the project is that they would like to remove a non-sort of functioning chimney on the house. I do have the homeowner here, I believe, who might be able to just clarify the need for that a little bit more, or at least just give a little bit more context. If anyone has further questions on
anyone
this.
Have any questions about it? We've got a nice explanatory letter talking about it.
And it's a faux chimney, is that what they're saying? Yeah.
No.
No? But,
That would be
I don't
something.
have that one. Which one are we on?
Number 8, 491
Number
Marcy
8.
Street.
A small chimney.
Oh,
Yep. So it sounds like they're rebuilding the taller chimney
oh, okay.
to be used, and they're going to remove the little chimney that has been cut down anyway. We did have some,
No, based on what you said, I don't have any issues.
So there's no one
all right,
here?
and yes, but I don't think we have, does anybody have any questions or anything like that? I think we're good. Does anyone take issue with removal of a chimney?
I just have one question.
Sure.
Even though the interior is not within our purview, it's a shorter chimney. Does anybody know, is it connected to fireplaces or not? Or is it just like, was it to a boiler or?
These were likely originally stove chimneys.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if they're still, if they were then, I mean, I'm sure they were then later connected to potentially other utilities, but probably,
Okay.
no, not, they wouldn't have supported a nice big fireplace,
Okay.
so,
Not to lower it.
okay.
Okay, great. So that will bring us to our last admin approval item, which is 0 Congress Street. The applicant here is a new tenant taking over from the Starbucks location. So their proposal is to remove the existing green awnings. They are not necessarily proposing to add anything to that, but they are also proposing to add their signage, which I do actually believe falls out of our purview, as it does not need Board of Adjustment approval for a variance. But they wanted to include it with this application, so. And does anyone have any further sort of questions on the signs that they're proposing or the removal of the awnings?
What's it gonna be?
No.
Okay. All right. So that completes our admin approvals. I'm happy to just kind of walk through them one more time. And if there's any stipulations, although I don't think we have any.
No.
So if we want to support a motion, we can go ahead and do that.
Motion to approve as presented?
Seconded?
All right, great. Any discussion about it? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. We're all good. All right. Thank you. All right, now we're on to our public hearings, old business. The first one is a work session public hearing requested by Matthew Morton Associates LLC, owner, for property located at 87 Market Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, replacement windows and doors, as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 106 as Lot 43 and lies within the Character District 4, Downtown Overlay, and Historic Districts. Who is,
Just step out.
oh, you
This
need
is
to
the one I
recuse.
have to recuse
Okay,
myself from.
fine. Is there anyone here to talk about this one? Do you, since this is a work session public hearing, do you want us to come down to the table, or do you want to just review, have a sort of a discussion review, and then,
Yeah, we
Right
can
up here.
just have a review, discussion review, yeah.
great. Okay.
I do know at our last meeting, we did approve sort of part of this approval, so we're here to talk about specifically the storefront windows at 87 Market Street. And there's also a proposal for a gutter and downspout system, so I will let Jeff sort of walk us through that as well.
Great.
Okay, so let's start with the windows, I guess. I met with
Sorry,
John.
can I have you just introduce yourself again, just for the minutes?
I'm sorry, yeah, my name is Jeff Jones. I own Main Coast Builders. Yeah. So I did meet with John and the other gentleman, I can't remember his name, last.
Adams.
David Adams.
Dave.
And kind of reviewed the application as how we would be installing the windows on that front storefront, which I believe they were quite happy with, like, I guess. Yeah, so, I mean, as far as I am aware, I don't believe there's any issue or anything as to the installation application of those or anything. I
Can
don't,
you
what do
provide
you,
us, I don't know if you can provide us with any sort of plan for the application or installation rather, or,
I'm not sure if this diagram that was included
That's it.
helps. I think
okay,
that's
that's
the,
what it is, okay.
I think that's the plan for,
Cross-section.
yeah, okay.
it might be a little hard to understand if you didn't really.
Yeah,
And I think, yeah, and you guys can have one that a little bit bigger.
okay,
So, Reagan,
yes,
I just want to give a 1-minute little tour.
sure,
That
please.
we did find the cast iron beams do have what appears to look like 3/4 inch quarter round cast into the beams so that these wood frames will set in right up against
Yeah.
those. The other thing is that these frames will be made out of wood for these giant pieces of glass. So, and they're trying to duplicate the moldings, so I'm thinking it's the best that I could hope for.
Yeah.
But that's
Okay.
my,
Thank you, John.
Great, thanks. Okay, great, thank you for that. So we have this just on record as hopefully your,
You want-
the planned approach. And then what else needs to be?
Would you like to look at the gutters?
yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes. So let me see if I can pull up first an elevation. So are they going to be on the front side and rear of
Yes, the
this?
front,
Okay.
front and
So-
rear, Market Street and
Front and rear.
Siri Street.
Okay. So here, let's start with, okay, so if
And
you
the-
want to start with Siri Street.
They come at 8-foot sections.
So just going kind of right across the top, or if you want, yeah, you can bring the mic over. Just make sure you don't touch the screen.
Does he have the gutters? Does he have pieces of them?
Yes,
Okay,
I
Oh,
believe
yeah,
we
so
do,
this-
and we've,
I want to
yes.
see him.
So it shows the gutters actually in place, right along the front there, and the downspouts will come down in their locations. Now, these gutters that are on there on the Ceres Street side are actually wood that are in quite rough shape. So we would rather, we're proposing to replace them with aluminum gutters. They're white painted, or they can paint it any color. Because the ones on the Market Street side are aluminum gutters that are in pretty rough shape as well. We're going to replace those. So we'd like to do both sides with the same, which I did bring a sample in of what they
sure,
do
you can
look
Yeah.
bring
like.
that up. So, these are just the bracket hardware that bolts into the fixtures. It's pretty much a It's a simple half round.
style gutter with the brown downspout, which is similar to the downspouts on the building. The ones on the building are fluted the bit to it. These are round.
Yeah.
This is just a gray downspout here is gray, but, you know, we were proposing to do them in white.
Can you
or
bring
whatever
those up?
color you might want to look at. You know, so the-
Can I ask a question? Oh, yeah, these are heavy duty. So are these continuous gutters, are these molded? I mean, are these going to be in 8-foot sections held together with little connecting pieces?
Yeah.
No, really?
Well, no, I think the 10-foot sections, so they will slide into each other.
Not these,
The,
the gutter.
oh, the gutters, yeah, they're, I don't know what length they are, actually. I'll have to find out now. They're bigger than 8-foot sections. I don't think they're, you know, continuous, you know.
Because these, the molded gutters that they
Yeah, I don't know.
use now, the continuous length ones, you can get 30-footers.
Yeah, they'll make them right here on the side.
Yeah, they make them right on the site. That's the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah, I can look into that.
You know, because, you know, your ice and snow will eventually, and then they start separating. But, you know, they're your gutters.
Yeah, well, we use these on a lot of.
Can I see can I see that too?
And if you could also grab the mic,
Yeah. At least
just for
they're heavy.
conversation purposes.
Or you can just speak into one of these.
So, yeah, this is, do you want to see it? I mean,
Yeah,
they are quite rugged, and the brackets, I mean,
Yeah, let me
that's
see
pretty,
these.
it's heavy-duty stuff. They will go nowhere.
Yeah.
And they slip in and crimp over. And the good thing about them is that they're really open, so they catch, you know, the stuff doesn't get trapped in them. You know, they blow out, blow through, so, you know.
You're not going to have leaf filters?
Yeah, well, that's, no.
There's no trees
See,
up
so
there.
that's a beautiful thing. You don't really need the leaf filters because the
No.
stuff is designed to blow out of them.
Besides that, you're 50 or 60 feet
Yeah.
in the air.
Yeah, exactly. That's the big thing, so.
Anybody else have questions about the gutter system?
Thank you.
Okay.
They are pretty heavy.
Yeah, solid.
Or do you, does somebody want to see this?
I'd
You
like
want to
to.
check it out? The architect
Thank you.
wants to check it out.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
So everybody sees so the locations that are there now are going to just be reused. They're just going to replace
Yes.
where they are. Okay.
Yeah.
And on the front and the back.
Front and back, yes, yeah.
Okay.
On there, I do believe actually on the Bow Street end, I think one of these downspouts wraps around on the Bow Street side, if I remember correctly. On that Bow Street end of it. I believe, I could.
Yep, I think, yeah, it shows it in the top right corner right there that it kind of wraps
Yeah.
down the side. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Okay. Great.
I mean, I'm convinced of the quality of these
Good.
commercial gutters.
Good. All right. Any other questions or comments on this? Are there any other parts to this application? Is it just the gutters and the details for the window?
This is it,
Okay.
pretty much for this
All right,
section
great.
of the.
Great. Anyone from the public then wanting to comment on this application? Since we're technically in work session,
You got to close it.
I'm going to close the work session, and I will reopen the public hearing section of this. So in just 2 sentences, please just recap what you talked about, just for the record, and then we'll vote.
On the gutters of the whole.
The whole thing.
Scope of the whole project. So, yeah, so the scope of the project is to replace the windows, the roof, the gutters, and repoint the whole building, which is in progress already. So that's the exterior portion of it, in replacement of the gutters. The interior portion is a few of the apartments are going to get renovated, and the store, the restaurant, Dolphin Striker underneath will be, as a part 2, kind of right following behind some of these other exterior.
It's okay.
projects.
We only deal with the exterior stuff, so you're just
Okay.
into it.
So that's it then.
Okay.
It's when-
Great. Any further questions from the commission?
No.
Anybody else from the public? Second time around? Miss anything? All right. So we'll close the public hearing and wait for a motion on this.
So I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second?
Conservation enhancement of property values, certainly this, keeping this building in good condition, and its compatibility of design with surrounding properties.
Okay, great. Any other comments?
I
Yes.
just would like to remind the applicant that when they come up with a design for their air conditioner covers, that can be done as an administrative approval, which is relatively easy, as you've probably seen. But don't forget to do that, please.
Yeah, because at this point, I don't know if we
Yeah.
can try to put them on the roof or not. We want to
Okay.
try to get rid of them altogether.
Whenever, yeah, great. Whenever you need to. All right. Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you. Thank you for all your work and time with us. All right. We do have a request to postpone, and I apologize. Let me go through all those. I should have done that at the beginning of the meeting. A request to postpone public hearing B, which is the petition of Jane Vanny Myers, owner for property located at 195 Washington Street. We also have a request to postpone for new business. Number 5, petition of RGA Investments LLC, owner for property located at 342 Islington Street. And then two more work sessions requesting to postpone. Number B, work session requested by Kevin Shitan Zhang, Revocable Trust of 2017, owner for property located at 377 Maplewood Avenue. And then work session requested by PNF Trust of 2013, owner for property located at 266 to 278 State Street. So can I get a motion to postpone all of those to next month?
So moved.
The motion.
Seconded.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, thank you. Okay. Here we are, public hearing, new business, number 1, petition of Lucille A. Capone Revocable Trust, care of Patrick K. Capone, owners for property located at 18 Ladd Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, window replacements, as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 117 as Lot 25 and lies within the Character District 4 and Historic Districts. Who's here to present this?
Bob Cook from Highbury Builders.
Hello, welcome.
And what we're seeking to do is to, when you look at the building on Ladd Street, the second floor and the third floor are 2 rental units. And we're simply seeking to replace the older windows from the 1990s with newer updated windows. The trims surrounding the windows will match the first floor, which are covered in metal to protect the existing wood that's there and give it a longer term finish. The one variation from the application that was turned in is that the owner has decided to change the window company, and it will not be Anderson 400s. They will now be Matthew Brothers Stamford Hills series, and they will be a 4-pane with fiberglass on the outside and wood on the inside with the proper muttons to reflect as if they were real windows. And I will forward the handout to Isaac.
Do you mean 2/2 windows?
Yes, 2/2.
Thank you.
Screens?
And a screen.
Half screen.
Lower half screen.
So again, since we don't have the specifications in front of us, explain a little bit more. The exterior is going to be fiberglass or fiber.
It's going to be a fiberglass finish like a Marvin or a Pella.
Okay.
This is a main company. The
Yep.
quality of the windows is actually, I think, equal to or better than a Marvin or an Anderson. And I do have some of the specifications I can circulate around.
Great. Thank you.
Starting with you, and you look through them, and I've circled the.
You're not being recorded now.
I can't believe they wouldn't hear my voice, John.
I know it.
Anyway, I'm circulating some materials around to show some of the details of the windows. And I will forward the entire documentation to Isaac so he has them for record. But they'll be a beautiful 4-pane window
Great.
and make the apartment units much more energy efficient.
So just to clarify, you said at the beginning of the presentation that they were going
That's not my
to
barn.
match the first floor that had metal clad?
Yes, there's wood trim. If you look closely.
Take the microphone.
She's in the way.
But there's
You have to
wood
take-
infill
You have to take the microphone with you.
around the windows. And the wood is aging. And rather than refinish it, the owner has elected to put metal to match the way it is on the first floor. And it's just a simple, nice metal thrashing, very neatly done. And it's just going to blend in with the windows because it will be the same bronze color as the window. And it will look very much the way it is now, except the windows themselves will have 4 panes instead of the 2.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right. Okay, any other questions? Comments?
I would just simply say, I'm familiar with Matthews Brothers windows, and I'm sorry, I cannot agree with you that they're of better quality than Anderson or Marvin, not even
Okay.
close, and I can't support that change.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Sure. This is the head person, Lincoln.
Hello?
How's it going? I'm the owner of Highbury Builders, one of the founders. I would disagree with the fact of Matthew Brothers not being in comparison to, let's say, Anderson 200s or the standard Marvin windows. I actually took a trip out to the Marvin Window Manufacturing Company this winter because I've, in the last year, spent $250,000 on Matthew windows. And my background is in furniture manufacturing. I've done a lot of work at Strawberry Bank, historical preservation. So my background is manufacturing. I spent a number of years overseas doing that, overseas furniture manufacturing. And this year, because of my dissatisfaction with Marvin, I was invited out to the factory, and I wasn't impressed. I find that they have a bigger brand name, Marvin, Pella, and Anderson, but they are failing in the quality control aspect. A lot of the wood product that comes in has raised surface grain. They put it through their milling machines, and they actually don't sand it before it goes into paint finish. Again, I'm a furniture maker by trade. I've been doing it since I was 14 years old. I stand by Matthew Brothers, but if you would like us to make a different decision based off of the town of Portsmouth, we're willing to do so. That's all I wanted to have for input.
Thank you.
I think we have.
Matthews has been here, we've had a representative recently
Yeah.
to talk about how they have changed some of their design, or tried to improve and trying to make more
Quality?
historically appropriate windows.
Okay.
Yes, Larry?
I'm not sure about this, so help me out, please.
Sure.
I think the Anderson 400 on the outer sill, for instance, is, like, say, a wood core and then Fibrex or something over
Yeah,
top of the wood.
very similar.
But-
I don't think that's illustrated in there, but
Right,
that's,
but what this is showing here for the Matthews is just like a fiberglass hollow core or something.
I think what's actually shown there is the fiberglass. I think I might have printed the wrong page, and I will send that to Isaac
Okay.
so he can verify that.
Okay.
Can you pass that over again?
All right, can you pass, Larry, can you pass them down again?
Back.
Check it out.
Good pickup.
All right, any other questions on this? Or comments? Okay. Anyone from the public wishing to speak to this application? Okay. I will close the public hearing then and wait for a motion. Anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Second. I believe the purpose of intent, say conservation, enhancement of property values, and review, it's consistent, or compatibility of design with surrounding properties.
What else? I mean, this is a pretty, I don't think there should be much controversy over replacing these windows. These are not very attractive windows to begin with. So I think that replacing these with a better, hopefully a better product will be improving it, as well as bringing it to a 2/2, which who knows what was the original layout of the windows, but certainly a 2/2 is more appropriate for this age and stuff. So.
I would just like to address my comment. I'm familiar with Matthews Brothers. I am not impressed with them. I would not want them in a historic structure, especially of a commercial building downtown. I don't think your application's complete. You show us one thing and then you give us a cut sheet at the last minute. So I can't support it. I can't sit there and say, hopefully, this will be what we need for a quality window in the historic district. So that's why I'm voting no.
Well, we have the motion out, but we also have next week where we could, if you provide the actual specifications, the proper things, we can review it and then just do a quick vote on this next week.
Yeah.
Is that
That would
okay?
be up to the applicant if
Yeah.
they would rather just have. it
I'm
vote
going to
now.
forward it to Isaac tonight, and he can be in touch with me if he needs any other information.
Would it be okay if we just had the final vote on this next Wednesday instead of tonight?
I think we have to.
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
think we have to postpone it.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we change the motion then, do you mind changing it to a postponement?
Yes.
Okay, great. So can I actually have them, who's going to make the motion to postpone, please?
I'll make a motion to postpone until next week.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
All right, great. I appreciate that. So we have all of our
We're good.
i's dotted and crossed t's. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yep.
Thank you. Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank
And I
you.
didn't know if you wanted these back.
One more.
No, you're good, yeah. Thank you.
And Bob, it'll be same time, 6:30, same location next week.
Okay.
So
And I'll forward that material to you tonight.
awesome.
Thank you. If you have any questions.
Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you guys.
You're welcome.
I have the next application. I need to recuse myself, so I'm going to let Margot do it. Here's the gavel.
Okay. Thank you. So this is a petition of the City of Portsmouth owner and Portsmouth Housing Authority applicant for a property located at 1 Junkins Avenue, known as Connor's Cottage, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior modifications to an existing structure, construction of an exterior chairlift at the main entrance. As per plans on file in the Planning Department, said property is shown on Assessor Map 110 as Lot 1 and lies within the municipal and historic districts. Hello, Carla.
Hello. Good evening. Carla Goodnight from CJ Architects. I'm here with Mark Lentz of the Portsmouth Housing Authority, and I'll give you a little background on this application. Mark came to us a few weeks ago, and he had been working with Nadine Miller of the Historic Preservation Officer from the New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources, and they had been out on site and mulling over several ideas about how to provide access to the residents at this back entrance. Oh, there it goes. At the back entrance here. And they had tossed around a couple of ideas. There's a window right here, and there's a window right here. And so the initial thought is that there is a lobby that's underutilized here, and that they would cut a hole here. And I know, yikes. And use that as a access point to put in a chairlift. And then they kind of went back and forth between the two openings. And we went out and met them on site, and Nadine was nice enough to, come back out and walk through this. But we noticed when we were out there that the steps here are, almost, well, they're a liability, and they're crumbling, and they've been repaired badly several times. And so we began to sort of think about the reason they wanted to come in the window is because there's a significant sill here at the base of the door. And we said, well, you know, these stairs are just gone. So let's pull the stairs and put in a nice, safe, new run of stairs and raise up. You can see there's little column bases on here, so the columns would not need to be disturbed. And we can just absorb that sill height and come in the side here. And more importantly, not cut any holes in the building at all. So if you go to the next page, well, I should probably let me just run through these points quickly. So the decision that was made was to center the ADA lift between the windows, build a little walkway between the two, and have no impact to the historic brick wall, and extend a little roof over so that for icing and the elderly population. Pour a new topping slab on this area right here, and then redo the stairs with brick on the sides to match existing water struck. And then the railings and so forth would be just as they are, in keeping with that. The one thing that we had chatted with Nadine about was the stair treads. Originally, we had proposed granite steps here, but she did not feel that would be appropriate historically, and she preferred precast concrete. So, because that's what the sills are currently on the building. So we followed her recommendation, and I've done a little bit more research, and actually this is the precast company that we had used on 25 Maplewood, and they were really great to work with. So, and they do these stairs, so we were planning on utilizing them for this project. So the next page, 2, shows the existing conditions of the existing, what we're planning to demolish the railings, demolish the stairs, and that's pretty much it here. And then the next page shows where the line of the new proposed metal lift would be in these blue dashed outlines, and there'd be a little platform across here, and then an extension of the little metal roof that comes with this whole mechanism. And part of the reason, besides the funding becoming available at this time, is that this is the primary entrance that the residents use. That's where their parking is, and it's just really a hardship for them to have to work their way around the building to the other side. On 3.0, you can see the unit in plan where they would enter here and then cross this little platform. This is a very tight area, so that's why we ended up pulling this back, so that they could exit the lift and come across, and we wouldn't have to disturb any of this arrangement here to get the width that we needed for the doors and the operational capacity. And then we will flip this door, restore it, and have it swing the other way, but we'll be keeping this door and then just putting a little a topping on here. We're also planning to do a brick veneer under the stairs here in a water-struck color match brick. So 3.1 shows the elevation with the lift in place, existing in front, and new stairs, same railing as before, and just the precast treads, and then the topping piece there, which would not disturb the columns. And then if you look on 4.0, we have a sample of the brick, and this lift is white. We would be doing it in a charcoal or a black. Charcoal. Similar to color matching the railings on 5.0. And this is gives you a better idea of what we are up against here in terms of, just damage to these stairs. The repairs to the side of here are, coming apart, and it's crumbling, literally crumbling. And then, the sill, we will try to keep the sill in place and patch it, but it's very dangerous for the residents. And it is original, so we will keep it, but we really need to level it out for safety concerns. And then you can see the little lip there, that would be the extent of the topping slab, just to enable them to pass over the threshold safely. And then you can see, how there's cracking and additional damage. So that is the hope of the Housing Authority and the residents.
Thank you. Any questions for Carla? Yes, John?
Just to comment, this seems like a very well thought out and necessary comment. So I really think that I'm in favor of this right now.
Any other questions? Martin?
This thing is not the most attractive element to stick on a historic building.
Mm-hmm.
What were the chances of maybe, and I know you're looking at like 100 feet of ramp, what's the chance of having a ramp that started somewhere nearby and eventually got you to this landing?
I think we would be regrading much of that front area, and also we have all these lower windows here, here, in that front, if you go back to that last page.
So you'd be obscuring a
Right.
series
We'd
of
be
windows
obscuring
instead
all
of
the
just a few.
low glass, and it's quite a drop, actually.
Yeah.
I think our hope is to just keep it sort of a light metal frame that just isn't touching anything, and can get people up and over, and getting it one window away from the actual symmetry of the entrance, I think was helpful. Putting it between the windows and having that little bridge across, kind of, as a fire escape vibe.
Okay. It's just a shame it has to be there, but I know it serves an important purpose.
I'm just happy we don't have to cut a hole. That was really
Thank you.
Larry?
how we started.
Two questions. I'm looking at dimensions here, and page, bear with me here, 3.0. I see a 5'7" 3/8". So that's big enough for a wheelchair, but what about the other direction? Is it just the way I'm looking at it? It doesn't look very deep. Is it big enough for a wheelchair and then a person
I'm
to
going to have to
help
look
the
here
person in
because
a
it's
wheelchair?
microscopic up there. Let me see here. What page was that again? I'm sorry.
3.0.
3.0.
The dimension that shows the size of the platform, so to say. So
Oh,
I see
yeah.
a 5'7". It's
Well,
not that picture. It's
yes. Right, and that is the, ADA-approved lift mechanism, so
that is big enough for.
Yep.
Okay.
it's tight, but we're trying to
Okay.
look for something compact and not overwhelming, too.
And I think you've got this pretty well thought out. I am going to just ask the question, not so much the ramp thing, but having seen something similar done in my grandparents' house 30 years ago, they had a lift on a staircase going upstairs. So my question is this: would there be a way to have a lift? You'd have to change the angle of the tread, not a ramp, but you'd have to change the tread so it's much more gradual. But is there a way to have a lift, like say, on the right side of the stairs where it goes up, and then you'd have to have a bigger platform up top, obviously? Did anybody look at something like that, or is that not feasible?
Most of those types of things are interior, because in the exterior, the
Okay.
seat would just be exposed to the elements. And I appreciate the ramp idea, but I think that historically, the representative was really wanting to maintain the grand stair
Yeah.
and that look, and I think a ramp, without a significant landscape undertaking, the ramp would be pretty intrusive. We did one on the Dover Courthouse,
Yeah.
very similar.
No, I think you've got a lot of thought into it. I think it's fine. I think it's workable. I was just, from what I personally experienced about 30-odd years ago, if I'd seen something a little bit different, but I think you've done a great job.
Well, thank you.
Dan?
Yes, I have a question on the roof. What's the roof made of?
Metal.
What it's going to look like?
It's a sheet metal extension of the roof on the mechanism, on the unit. So if you look at page 4.0, and then again, I realize it's in white, but it would be an extension, a sheet metal extension of that roof there, in a charcoal black color, very under, trying to fade away into the background. We thought about doing something, just more, but I really don't want to take away from the pediment and the columns and just try to keep this little slice of sheet metal as invisible as possible.
It's not as thick as it looks on the front elevation. Looks like
Maybe
it's
drawn thicker. Maybe drawn a little.
on
Oh, you know why? Because you're seeing the slope. You're seeing the pitch up.
oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And that cuts across that one window.
Yes, but it floats in front. It'll be attached by posts freestanding.
Okay.
Any other questions? I just had one or two. So just for clarification, the cut sheet specifies bronze. Is that what you want? Not
Yes.
charcoal, bronze?
Bronze.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you don't have any indication on landscaping how people get to the lift. There's the tree in front, and then there's a tree that looks like it's pretty much right where you're going to put the unit. I assume that one, the second one that's where the unit is, will have to go. Are you able to keep the one in front, which, when in bloom, obscures a good amount of?
I think we can keep that tree on the right. It may need to be limbed up a little bit, but I think the tree itself may be able to stay. Mark's
There-
nodding. He
There are
believes it
two.
can.
There's one that's right near the building, and then there's one that's further forward. Okay.
Right.
Definitely
It's gonna-
keeping the
it
one
will
that's
just
further forward.
Make a quarter circle off the main,
Okay,
right at the base of the stairs. It'll just quarter circle over.
okay, great. I'd be very happy if we keep that one, the front, with the tree in the front, which isn't anywhere near
No.
that. Okay. I didn't have any other questions. All right. Anybody from the public wishing to make a comment or ask a question? No? Okay, in which case we'll close the public hearing and I await a motion.
I'll move that we approve this as presented.
Second?
Okay.
Yes, the preservation of the integrity is always something. We've assessed the historical significance of the building, but this is a handicapped, accessible design that is being put on here. And I believe that handicapped ramps and handicapped lifts like this are able to be placed on historic buildings. So with that in mind, I'm approving of it. It's also, compatibility of design with surrounding properties. It's an innovative technology. It's number 4 is about as close as we're going to get on this thing.
Any other questions or comments regarding the application? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Anyone opposed? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll pass the gavel back to Reagan.
All right, now we're on to number 3, petition, the City of Portsmouth owner and Unitil applicant for property located at 0 Marcy Street, Prescott Park Utility Building, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, replacement windows and doors, as per plan on files in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 104 as Lot 1 and lies within the municipal and historic districts. Hello. Please
Hello.
introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Craig Eaton with Whitehall Project Services.
Great.
I'm managing this project for Unitil.
Okay, great, thank you. Do you want to just explain your project here and go through the,
Yeah, so basically it's right in front of Prescott Park, and as you can see, it's not all that pretty. So Unitil just wanted to spruce it up a little bit. So we're repairing and repainting the wooden trim and the wooden gutters, and we would like to replace the old windows and doors with something a little more modern, but in keeping with the essence of the location of the building and whatnot. It's basically, I think the design is to just replicate what's already there, with the exception of the front door. The front door there is just it's a made-up sheet of plywood door. The door on the back of the building is actually a 6-panel solid door, and that's what we would like to put on the front as well, mahogany, solid mahogany for both.
great. Any questions from the commission? Dr. Brown?
Yes, the surrounding wood on the window is repairable, the arches and things
It's,
like that?
yeah, for the most part, that's in pretty good shape. If there is anything that does need to be repaired, we'll just replace it with to keep
kind.
what's exactly there now.
Why did you pick vinyl?
Actually, I believe aren't the 400 series, aren't those aluminum clad?
E-Series.
It is. It's about an aluminum window.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is the, out of curiosity, what's the paint color?
The windows will just be black. We'll order those black inside, outside, the SDLs as well. And the rest of the trim color will be a Benmore historic color. It's, I think it's Kendall Charcoal,
Okay.
HC 166. Which is similar to what's there. I think it might be a little darker than what's already there.
Yeah, what's there is kind of a bluish gray that is.
Yeah, and I'm not sure when the
Might have
last.
originally been black, but.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Might have originally been closer to black. but-
I don't believe it was ever that dark. No. I think it's a faded version of what's already. I don't know how long it's been, but I would say it was still a dark gray to start with.
Okay. Yes, John?
Is this window, how many windows are there?
3.
Great. Are they meant to be opened? Are you going to open them, leave them?
No,
So they don't need screens?
they don't. And I noticed that the quote came through with screens, but I don't think they'll be utilized.
Because that's always a problem with us. The other problem that I see is that you have white jam liner inserts with these windows. So if these windows are meant to be closed, either you're going to have to get, this is Anderson, right?
Yes.
To provide you with the proper color jam liners. So the jam liners are on the side, and that's what the windows go up and down in.
Okay.
Okay, and you're speccing white ones. And they're going to stand out like a sore thumb on black windows.
Yeah, and I think that quote does say white, but as you see in the red down there, it says that everything will be ordered black. So if we can get black jam liners, we'll get black jam liners. I'll make a note of that.
Otherwise, you'll have to paint them.
Yeah, and like I said, the windows won't be open. They'll never be open, so it won't be a problem painting those.
No, it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Sure.
I have a question about
Yes.
this. As I was there looking at this little structure, which is in disrepair now, but is actually a very sweet little
It is.
kind of historic utility building. Did you ever consider just getting another set of like Brosco wood windows that are there that are single pane? There's no real reason that I could see that these windows need to be insulated or.
The only reason I think we decided to go with these and to try to get these through is just because it's not a building that Unitil pays much attention to, as you can tell by the looks of it now. And it's just, the more wood that's on there, the more work it'll require. We figured that these would last longer, look better longer.
Okay, yeah, I mean, and this is my personal opinion, is that having having the texture of an actual wood window and the slimness that the muntins can be on an actual wood window rather than one of these sort of wrapped exteriors is just so much nicer to see, and
Well-
it like gives it is a much more authentic sort of
I
look to this
think
little
that
thing.
I think that the muntins here are actually a 5/8, so they're fairly thin. To be
Right.
consistent with an original style
It's-
window.
It's a texture thing. Like it's, it is definitely, there's a lightness to an actual wood window that you just can't get with one of these that have the insulated glass and all of that stuff. So, and I would think that it would be a lot less expensive too to get a wood window with just a single pane, uninsulated glass. So that would just,
I support what you're saying.
I mean,
This is a little gem. It's got a slate roof. It's got a beautiful little wooden gutter. I know no one really looks at it, but it's right next to the park. And for taxpayers, saving taxpayer money, yeah, a little simple wood construction is, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, right now it fades in the background, but just it could be done really well. One of my concerns is, isn't the door like a custom opening?
In what regards? Like the size of the door?
To me, it looks like a 6'8" door, more like a 6-foot door or something. It's just,
Well, it's actually a little
I'm
bit
asking.
taller. We're going to have to special order a little bit taller door.
yeah, I
What's
think.
there? And as far as the windows go, if I might add, the building to the left of it, those are not especially good-looking windows. I think we're doing a better job than what's right next to it, if I might argue that point.
I think you can do it.
On the other side is the theater, which has the exact
Yep.
surround and shape, and they did a beautiful job keeping the wood and then just putting windows in, and about 5 times your 3 windows, so I think you got a good example in the theater of how they handled that with a wood window and good wood that you're doing replacing, and I think this is an important spot for the town and for, South End.
I know you feel like you're getting a little fussy with it, and we probably are, but it's a great little building, and to know that it's
I agree with you there,
yeah.
for sure.
Yes, John.
So it's a great little building, so they're restoring it and putting new doors and windows in. So the Brosco windows, after 2 years, the putty starts to fall out, especially when they're left out in the open by themselves like that. You're recommending Brosco windows because you like the texture of them? Are you going to go up and actually feel? That's texture, right?
It's
Are you
pretty-
going to feel these windows?
It's
Because
pretty
you shouldn't be
available.
feeling
It's
these
pretty
windows.
available right there on the
All right.
sidewalk. So.
I'm just saying that your love of single pane windows, I don't know, doesn't make any sense to me.
Well,
Isn't
I
that
did-
why we're here, John?
I did say that that was my opinion. so
No,
it
I mean,
doesn't
we're
have
here to
make sense
review
you.
this. And in my opinion, that these windows are fine.
That's your opinion, but
That is my opinion.
and that's her opinion. That's my opinion.
Okay,
So
good.
to belittle it is just inappropriate.
I'm not belittling anybody. I'm
love
saying
of
that
single-pane windows.
I'm saying that the only thing that she has against these windows is the texture of these windows. That doesn't make sense to me.
I was down there feeling the texture of these windows. It's right on the sidewalk. So I think at least the front one is, I'm really against vinyl on the front one. And since you're only doing 3, and again, the theater must have done about 20 of them, I can't imagine it would be costing the city too much more money. Although that's not an issue here.
Well, here's something that you might consider. Is that the window that is right there on the sidewalk that you can reach out and touch be something that is a higher grade than a vinyl wrapped window exterior. In my opinion, a wood exterior is higher than a vinyl. But that if you are looking for something that is less less maintenance for the rest of the, the side and the back of the building that is covered with greenery and is not quite accessible to use, a replacement window there. I don't know if that's something that you would consider.
We'll do whatever the board would allow us to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, and I understand your thought and texture and what, I mean, you can see texture, I agree with you, kind of the way things look.
And you're right, with this building next door, we don't want that either, so it's.
I feel like you're making a massive improvement to what's there. I will like to add also, though, that a wooden single pane window or single glass window, what we're suggesting to use is a little bit more of a security factor, has a security factor as well, because inside of that building, it's a little regulator station, natural gas running through there. And that is something that you don't really want people to have, easy access to start messing around with regulators and adjusting pressures and up and down, and that just leads to bad things. I don't know if you remember what happened in, Lawrence a few years ago. If anybody ever heard of that.
Jeez. Is it heated?
It's not heated, no.
Okay.
Yes, Larry.
That was actually going to be one of my questions.
sorry.
No, that's good. You're good. We're thinking alike. The other thing, and the vinyl versus wood, generally, if a homeowner comes in and, they got to do 10, 20 windows, the vinyl is more cost effective, but, we usually, I think, go with, okay, well, can you put wood near the street? And if you really have to have a vinyl, can it be in your backyard? So I'm going to side with our chair on this, that I think if you go high end on that window, it's going to be nice, versus vinyl. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the standard that we hold the homeowner to, I don't think the city should be held to any less standard.
Okay. You keep saying city.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yes, go.
Like the location of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, John.
So I guess, I'm willing to accept putting the single pane windows on the front. Don't get me wrong. I can see what he's talking about as far as security goes. These sashes are not vinyl. These sashes are solid wood with that Fibrex exterior.
These are not. This is on the,
No, the
on the
interior,
specification.
no, the sash is pine with white. It says the sash is pine with white. Anyways, what's going to happen, I'm afraid, and this is a question I'd like to ask him, is, so we put single pane windows right there on the sidewalk. Are you going to want to cover them with some sort of 1/4-inch mesh or something similar to that?
Well, that's kind of what's there on the front now that you mention it, that window for a security purpose. I know that's not extremely attractive,
No.
but if we had to put in a single pane glass, I'd have to go back and they're going to want something. I'm sure I'll be back here to see you guys to see, approve something for security reasons.
I guess it doesn't have to be a single pane. I was trying to give him the option of doing something that's less expensive. If you want to do an insulated glass wood frame window, that's wood on the exterior, I'd be willing to support that too. We're starting to get really picky about this little building and getting into the weeds here. Does anybody else have any quick and easy solution? This specification says to me it's rigid vinyl with interior drip cap. So it looks like it's a vinyl exterior and a painted white pine frame on the inside.
Yeah, like I said, we're going to order them all black. The quote.
Fine.
Yeah, okay.
So paint, but
okay.
But the exterior, what I'm saying, is a vinyl cap, is a vinyl window.
It's not.
This is what the specification
Vinyl
said.
clad.
Reading. When you're reading the vinyl, you're looking at the frame. Continue reading. White exterior sash panel, pine with white. Painted interior.
So what I want to know.
It's not painted on the outside.
I know.
Don't get me wrong.
I know. I want to know, is this a vinyl window that we're looking at, like a vinyl clad exterior window where the window itself is vinyl or not? Is anyone here familiar with the E-Series? Would you like to come and clarify this?
Well, very
for us?
familiar with 400 series, the E-series.
You'll have to
is
use, you'll have to
E-Series,
use the
yeah.
microphone, please.
So, it is a wood window.
Sorry, it's the microphone that you have to get to.
It is a wood window that is then cladded on the outside in a Fibrix vinyl composite, and it's protecting that inside.
Right.
And just to address one other thing too, I was actually one of the first responders actually during the Lawrence gas explosions. So security really is important. And just to add, if you tempered those two pieces of glass, or if it was two or just a single pane, it would add just a little bit of security there.
Sure.
So that's it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
I give up.
Good.
So,
Could we compromise with a Marvin wood window in the front and then your two vinyls on the back?
Like I said, we'll do whatever you want to approve. I just need to get this going.
yeah.
May I?
Yes, please.
I think if you're going to put a beautiful mahogany door right next to that window, I think you should have a nice wood window. What you do on the side, I don't care.
And there's going to be maintenance on the mahogany door, so you can add a little maintenance to the window, to the one window.
I think there are certainly ways to get a wood window that is secure, whether it's single pane or insulated, just as long as it is an actual wood window. There are plenty of manufacturers out there that still make wood windows.
Sure.
You know, so if that is a possibility, you can always bring that, figure out what that's going to be, bring the specification, give it to Isaac so that we have that on record, if that is the direction of the commission. I want to go just get through this. So let's do public hearing. If there's anyone from the public who wants to speak to this application. All right, seeing no one rise, close the public hearing, wait for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with the stipulation that the window be a wood window.
The window on Marcy Street, or all of
Yes.
them.
We can compromise, we can allow the windows on the other sides to be what is specified in the package.
I will second that motion.
You have findings of fact.
Findings of fact, it's compatible with the surrounding properties and it enhances the integrity of the historic district.
Any other comments? Thank you. This is going to make this whole little building look a lot better. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. One more question.
Okay.
So we did have wooden windows spec'd. Can I just submit those to Isaac?
Yes.
Do I need to come back again, or?
No, so whatever
Okay.
whatever specification you find, you can send to Isaac, and then we'll have an administrative approval just to okay that. And you won't have to be here.
Okay, will that be next week?
If you can get it in time, sure.
Yeah.
Yep, we can, well, let's chat tomorrow, and we can definitely make that work.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, number 4 is the petition of Parkside Condominium Association owner and Edward Mallon applicant for property located at 67 State Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, partial removal of chimneys, as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 105 as Lot 18 and lies within the Character District 5 and Historic Districts.
Good evening.
Hello again.
Hello again. Mark Giannini from McHenry Architecture. I'm joined with Emma Weir from our office, as well as Jeff Sabin from JPK Properties, who's the property manager for the building. So we're here tonight to ask for approval for some modifications to the existing chimneys. There are currently 6 chimneys on the building, and they were all designed and constructed as a thin veneer brick. And in the time that the building's been in place, they've had some issues with water infiltration through some of the flashing that's on it, as well as some freeze-thaw and spalling and cracking of some of the brick veneer. So the intent is to do some more deconstruction of the chimneys to determine the full extent. Some have more deterioration in the masonry than others, but they'll be reconstructing the chimneys with similar materials or in-kind materials. And then we are here to propose a modification to the chimney top and cap. So hopefully that we have a more weather-tight situation for them in the long run. So if you move on, Isaac, on the first plan there, just real quick, the 6 locations are identified with the green rectangles. So you can see they're evenly spread out around the building. And then on the next page, A1, are photographs of the existing chimneys from the grounds, again, to give you a better idea of the detail that is existing and also the locations. And then on page A2, we'll give you some detail, minimal detail about what was originally constructed, what we're removing, and the proposed work. So you can see here there's at the top of the chimney right now there's a faux blue stone cap that's on top. It's approximately 4 inches thick. It's basically a fiberglass wrapped foam piece. And at this point, the way it was installed, there was basically fasteners just through the top of it. So it's not very weather tight. It's absorbed water and moisture, also gets down through it. And then the 4 openings there which would have been, if it was a real chimney for 4 flues, are basically just decorative in this situation. So while you see a brick facade from the street, basically once you're in one brick depth, it's plywood and rubber membrane, basically, kind of providing the weatherproofing. And again, in the time that the building's been there, many of the seams have separated in that rubber membrane, letting moisture down. So the plywood sheathing has deteriorated in many locations, and it's also let water down into the faux chimneys. So what we're here proposing tonight is basically to remove the top 8 to 10 inches so that we're down below those 4 fake openings. We'll put a new rubber membrane over the top of it to make it weather tight, in addition to any of the other repairs of the thin brick below that. And then, since we're taking off some of the decorative elements of the chimneys, we're proposing back putting a copper chimney cap that would basically add a decorative element back to it. This would be, again, unused. There are no chimneys or no fireplaces or flues in there. So the bottom piece of this, and actually you can maybe see it slightly better on the next page. Well, there would be this openness of the screens that would let air through the chimney cap. The bottom pan, I'll call it, with the flashing would basically be a solid piece. So again, any moisture, that kind of wind-driven rain or snow that got through those screens would be a solid piece of copper in there. So moisture doesn't get down into the construction of the chimney. So this is we propose it in copper. So again, it will patina and it will match other copper elements that are on the building that have already patinaed. And it will, again, add kind of a decorative element back to the top of the chimneys. I think that is that would be about it.
All right.
Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Yeah, any questions?
Did I just want to make sure I heard it correct. There's nothing functional in these chimneys. There's no flues. They're not connected to anything.
That's correct there, all 6 of
So
them.
then, why even have the open mesh? Why not just a solid copper?
That is an option with the manufacturer, but we were kind of, even though they are visible from the ground, so we did the open mesh so that there would still be that appearance that it's functional, but again, it would have a solid pan below it to help protect it, as well as a rubber membrane flashing below it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I would just simply say that I would want the openings to be shown so that it looks like a chimney with openings. I think you have a good solution, so a lot of work for something very decorative, but it'll probably solve your problem, and so I'll support it.
Anyone else?
This is very unfortunate, but I would have to agree with Martin. This is a good repair.
Yeah.
And I really think that it does need to have the ventilation looking.
I mean,
And the reverse curve is very appropriate because it has a mansard roof. It's, Victorian, a new Victorian.
yes.
I just think it's interesting that these are 9 years old, so either they were built really, really poorly, or this is a really good argument for why people shouldn't do faux chimneys.
Yeah.
I do think it's very interesting to see because we've kind of wondered what the lifespan of these thin brick, boxes on a roof is going to be, and obviously they're not. The lifespan's not very long. So thank you for keeping up the decorative elements, though. These are this is a very decorated building. So just got to keep it up. Yes.
Just one more question. So on that bottom, you said there's a solid copper pan to catch the water. It's below the level of the mesh when I look at it then, correct?
Correct, yes.
So where does the water drain then? I mean, if it was above the level of the mesh, it would
Right.
not get in at all.
I don't know specifically. I would assume that there are some weep holes in there,
Okay.
but it is an option that the manufacturer provides as a standard option to provide a solid pan, basically.
Yeah.
So we'll verify that, but I would assume there'd be some sort of weep holes for moisture to get out.
Well, and I do also feel the reverse curve is with keeping with the curvature of the roof line as well.
Right.
So I think you've done something really innovative with an unfortunate problem.
Great. Anything else? Anyone from the public wishing to speak to this application? Seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing and wait for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second?
All right.
Uh,
Finding facts?
Yeah, it's compatible with the surrounding architecture and the architecture of the building, and it enhances, it's related to historic and architectural value of the existing structure.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right, on to number 6, the petition of Daisy and Bert Wardle, owners for property located at 245 Marcy Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, replace 29 windows and 3 doors, as per plans on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 103 as Lot 13 and lies within the General Residence B in the Historic Districts. Welcome, please introduce yourself.
Good evening, and thank you very much for having us. So my name is Taylor Robidoux. I'm with Anderson Corporation. I represent Daisy and Bert Wartell at 245 Marcy Street in Portsmouth. The proposed project that we're proposing is replacing 29 double-hung windows and 2 entry doors in the residence. Currently, what's in the residence right now are 29 double-hung windows that are in extremely poor shape. They've been replaced in the past with, there's vinyl jambs there with windows, wood windows that have an actual faux storm that's attached to the actual sash to protect the grill. They're extremely inefficient. Many of the sills are rotted. Many of the casings are rotted. There's quite a few issues going on the exterior of the house, the interior of the house, as well as potential issues going on within the walls and cavities of the actual windows. So we're proposing replacing all 29 windows with double-hung Anderson's Acclaim Series window, which is a completely composite material. It is 40% wood particles and 60% proprietary polymers. It's meant to be look and feel like a real wood window with a painted finish to preserve that architectural and the overall historic look of the historical district. And also, just one other thing too, I forgot to mention, we are looking to match like for like the same grill patterns on all sashes and the same style of windows too.
Great. Any questions about the windows? Anyone?
When do you think those windows are from? The present windows?
I would say, if my best guess, I would say they were probably from the late 80s or early 90s as my best guess. In my estimation, they were probably, I'm not sure, the history of the commission, but I would say they were probably done without permits maybe, just after looking at the actual windows themselves. But
They're not old. They've got the little, like you were saying, you could stick the storm window on just to get the little things that, yeah.
Yes, and also one other thing too to add to that is the actual jams that they put in up against the inserts, and then put just obviously newer wood windows in there, but they've failed. There's zero efficiency whatsoever to them, and it's definitely costing the homeowners quite a bit of money, energy efficiency wise, and it could be causing potential damage to the actual structure of the house too.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Any other questions?
Not about the windows.
Yeah. Do you want to move on to the doors?
Absolutely. In the front of the home, currently the front entry door is covered by a wood almost storm door. That storm door, the owners are looking to preserve and keep that on the front of the house. That front entry door, though, will be replaced with a Signet Heritage Series fiberglass front door, which is the very last, second to last page. And so that Signet series of very high-end door, it is thermally efficient as well as very aesthetically pleasing. And then they're looking to, the homeowners are looking to extend the height of that original storm door that's there, because currently it's cut down a little bit.
What was that? I didn't understand that. Would you go over that again? The height?
Yes, if you look, someone had made a modification to the top of that storm door at one point, on the entry door at one point, and
Couldn't be because the house is old. could it?
maybe so, sir.
Are you referring to them cutting it down so that the transom lights would allow light in?
Actually, the door that we built out actually goes up to the top of that transom there, because currently the way that it is, it's shifted. It's not structurally sound as far as so the door height would increase slightly.
So you're going to remove the transom?
Excuse me?
Sorry, so you'll remove the transom windows?
Correct. Yes. They look like they were added after the fact, and it wasn't original to the home.
So I opened the door, the storm door, and I looked at this
Okay.
wooden door.
Yes.
It looks like a gorgeous wooden door. Tell me what's wrong with it.
So the homeowners wanted a newer, updated, energy efficient door and update the look of the door. So that is why they're replacing it. As far as what's wrong with it is, it's just energy efficiency and a wood door. As far as I can't recall specifically if it has severe rot on it. I'm glad to take a closer look at it though as well.
I'm just always reluctant to take out a wooden door that's in good condition that is going to be covered by another wooden door that is on the street that is probably not the main entrance that the homeowners are going to use. So I was just curious as to why they would. I mean, if you told me that it was a beautiful wood door, but it was only 20 years old, okay, fine. But it looked like it was good equipment.
Yes, so I do know that the door is completely, it's not, obviously it's an older home. It has alignment issues. It's, misaligned a little bit. I don't know how much it's rotted though. I do know energy efficiency is extremely important to the homeowners. And so that is the main things that I know, but I completely understand what you're saying.
John?
I'm thinking we should just pull this door right out. We should pull this out, and if we need to have a site walk to look at what Margot has looked at, I trust Margot's opinion. I tend to think that the awning, the light above the door
Transom.
could very well be original. That because the door is short because of that, because the house is old, probably the ceilings are very low. And besides that, the door that you're proposing for the front of this colonial house is entirely inappropriate. This is a door that is more appropriate to a Sears and Roebuck's 1920s kind of house. It's become popular. Everybody wants these now, but it doesn't work on Marcy Street. So I don't know how we're going to handle this.
Anyone else?
Can I just ask, it's more
Absolutely,
of a
sir. Absolutely.
technical question. When you find a house like this, the front wall is probably leaning back or leaning forward. The opening is probably racked slightly. How do you manage to put in a beautifully precision square door into a situation like that?
Yes, it is quite difficult in some situations. It can be quite challenging too. I am not specifically on the installation side of things, but what I can say is that Anderson, we try to preserve absolutely every bit of integrity as far as historical wise that we can. We have done hundreds, if not thousands, of historical homes throughout, Massachusetts and New England. As far as straightening out an opening, if it's tilted off center or something like that, we're going to do everything we can to not have to, touch the actual framing and start, trying to correct it. But we'll work with what's there, and to make it obviously structurally safe. Put that door in, make sure it's square, level, and plumb. But in some cases, it's almost impossible unless you do touch that structure of the actual framing. So.
Exactly, and I was just wondering if you go at the frame or you go at the door to make that work.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you.
Whether you modify your door or whether you modify the frame, I would think you probably end up doing the frame.
Yeah, because the door is built to spec, and I completely understand what John was saying earlier. I do understand that aspect. I did not build out this door. The homeowners built out the door. It is a very high-end door, I will say that. And it is built with a lot of quality. However, I understand it may not be exactly what the board is looking for. But we will use every bit of, if you do approve the door, we'll use every bit of caution while installing it and making sure that it is installed with the highest level of care and concern.
Yes, Larry?
I was just going to add, because I didn't realize it till now, but if I'm reading this correct, the door's fiberglass with insulation filled. So, I mean, John's going to be the expert on this, but a wood door you can trim, right, John? Where if it's a
Fiberglass one,
solid
you really
wood-
can't cut it down.
Yeah, fiberglass, you're not going to be able to cut this down. So you're going to have to, back to what Martin was saying, you're going to have to modify the opening because you can't trim the fiberglass door. Is that correct?
Exactly, and one of the other problems, if you expand it and look at the specs, that this door is pre-hung. It's pre-hung in a frame with the hinges and everything are all there, so they're going to try to plug this pre-hung door into a 250-year-old opening.
I think where we are, it sounds like we might need to remove the replacement doors from the application. I also was able to go in and I opened up the storm door and took a look at the door. It is a beautiful door. It's got a lovely doorbell and it and everything. And, you know, especially when you have the facade of a house right on the sidewalk there, we really try to be very particular about keeping as much of the original material, or at least the integrity of, you know, using wood and things like that right on the sidewalk there. So, you know, I think the replacement windows aren't that big of a deal because they're not historic, but this door is historic. So, I don't feel comfortable, replacing this door with anything at the moment until maybe we need to have time to look around. If anything, I would think that we would consider a replacement door made fully out of wood. And I'm sure that this product is very high quality. I don't doubt that at all. It's just more of what our guidelines and standards are for the historic district.
I completely understand. So I completely understand that, and what I can do is I can pass that on also to the homeowners as well.
Okay.
That's not a problem.
That'd be great.
I do know. I don't believe they'll have an issue. I can't speak on their behalf, but I will definitely pass that on to them, and we can address it if we need to. But
Okay.
they may be just fine with just the windows too.
Okay, great.
Okay. Also, I'm sorry. One other thing too. There is a rear entry door on there, which is facing the rear of the yard. I was just wondering the board's thought on that.
Yeah.
You can barely see it. It's behind.
Right.
It's behind it. Behind.
Yeah, it's right tucked in.
Very big. So like.
Yeah, so that's something that, you know, if we can't really see it, we're not going to be quite as particular about that. So I don't know if anybody has issues with the proposed rear entry door that looks like is mostly glass.
Yeah, it looks like a diamond or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yes.
One question on the rear.
Absolutely.
The photo looks like a wood storm door or screen door or something. What is actually behind it, unless I'm reading it wrong? It's on page, oh gosh, help me out here.
And you can't see it.
I think the door is open. I think you can't see through the.
Oh, okay.
I think that's why you can't see it, because.
Yeah, because I think this is a storm door,
Open
right?
door trick.
Right, because you've got the screen door.
Okay.
Yes.
You're saying
Yeah.
the door's open.
That rear entry door is open, I believe, in that picture.
Okay.
So you can't see it.
So whatever you do with the rear door, would it still have a wood screen door?
No, Ed. As far as that rear storm door, it is going to be a fiberglass entry door as well as provided, and then there's going to be it's going to be made with that rear entry door, and it's an aluminum rear entry door.
Okay.
Can I ask Reagan a
Yes.
question? What did you think about the transom?
Oh, I think that everything needs to be just kept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Like, don't touch it.
Yeah,
Unless it.
I like the transom. I
Yes.
don't know how it fit, but it gives it a neat look from the outside.
No, that's.
But otherwise, I agree with you. Windows and the back door look very good.
Yes, and you should know, you can pass on to them too, that wooden screen doors or wooden storm doors are exempt from our review. So if they want to put wood on there, that doesn't have to come back, whatever they want to do with the existing wood storm door on the front, that's fine. If they keep it, great. But it,
Okay.
it's just an exempt item for us.
I will definitely pass that on to them too.
Okay, great. So anything else, any other issues with this or questions, comments on this application? All right.
The HVAC, he probably can't speak to.
Oh,
You're not responsible for any other part of the construction of this project, right?
I am not. No, I am strictly the
So I'm
windows
not
and
gonna
doors.
ask you- I'm not going to ask you about HVAC.
However, I did just build my HVAC system.
All right.
all right, thank you. Anyone from the public wishing to speak to this application? No? Okay. Seeing no one rise, we'll close the public hearing and wait for a motion.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve replacement of the windows as requested and presented, and the rear entry door as well, and exclude from the approval the front door replacement that was suggested.
Second.
Okay. I believe this maintains the special character of the district. This building is a contributing building, and keeping it in the shape, in the manner in which it deserves is definitely welcome, and has compatibility of design with the surrounding properties. It's fits very well in with the surrounding.
I did want to make sure that we
Yes.
stipulate a half screen for these windows.
Stipulating half screens.
Yes, all the windows have half screens.
Great. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, I just want to mention one thing earlier when I spoke. I thought we were referring to the 400 series windows.
It's E-Series.
So I just want to correct one thing. That 400 series window is a vinyl clad on the outside of that with a wood pine frame.
Yes.
On the E series, that is an aluminum clad that's on the exterior of that one. I don't know which one that you were referring to when I came up, but so it's a little bit different, just so you have that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think most of us are fairly familiar with the 400 series. We've
Yes.
seen that a lot more, but not so much with the E-Series, so I appreciate
Completely
that.
understand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Does anybody need a break? We're almost to our work session, which is our final.
I need a quick break, but you guys can start with
Okay. Maybe we'll have a slow start to get down to the table. Yes.
I'm sorry, I just have one question. So after receiving the approval today, is the project good to go ahead with the front door removed only?
You will technically just need to wait for a letter of decision to be issued, which will then start the building permit.
Understood, yes. Yep.
So it will take maybe a couple of days to get the building permit, finalized. But by next week, you should have that.
Absolutely. No, I knew that. I just wanted to see. Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, I will read, and if anybody needs to take a break, go ahead. I'm going to read the work session. We have work session requested by Wenberry Associates, LLC, owner for property located at 21 Congress Street, wherein permission is requested to allow new construction to an existing structure, construct rooftop penthouse, construct storefronts along Haven Court, and modify the Fleet Street facade as per plans on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 117 as Lot 12 and lies within the Character District 5, Downtown Overlay and Historic Districts. All right, so this is our work session. We can all go down to the table. Not.
Mean to. What did he say? Demean you? I'm sorry.
Sometimes we're lucky.
Oh, it's got the diamond. Good for you.
A Sears and Roebuck product? And follow you there, yeah.
No, the storm doors. It's the replacement door that was.
Oh, okay, good.
You're good.
Thanks. I thought you were at the storm door.
No, you're good.
Because there's a lot of, oops, unmanning and all around the area.
Yes. Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Hello.
Hi again. Thank you for having us back. Tracy Kozak with Argo Architects, here with Marie Bodie from McNabb Properties, here on behalf of the applicant. Thank you for having us back. This is our second work session. We took your comments to heart and made a number of updates, which I'm happy to go through. If there are any questions anytime, please jump in. No changes to the site plan, that's simply here for reference and orientation. Again, this is what we call the 15 Congress block, also known as the 20 Congress block, also known as the Newberry's building. Fleet Street's on the left, Congress Street on the bottom. To the right is our previously approved One Congress project. I do want to note that we are submitting this all as one project, so this does include a few modifications to the back side of the previously approved One Congress and the 15 Congress, so it will all be one.
So just to clarify on this map, because I was looking at it the other day, so parcel 11713 is just a little island in there that's not owned.
It has a couple of missing teeth.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yep, Haven Court is to the top of the page, and there's a little alley off of Fleet Street between the 55 Congress building and our project, which we are going to refer to as the South Alley. Okay. The next page. Again, this just defines the actual limits of our 15 Congress property towards the bottom of the page, and the One Congress at the top. The change to One Congress is that we're filling in that back alley between the two parcels with a stair tower elevator and connecting them, whereas before we had that 10-foot alley which went all the way to the back of the bagel store. This is a slightly updated landscape plan. A couple of updates to note. We've added more landscaping and greenery along Haven Court on both sides. There's a lot of impervious pavers and plantings that comply with the site plan review requirements. We've added a planting strip along the ramp adjacent to Gillies. And again, this is all handicapped accessible. The guardrail, the wall is no longer high enough that it requires the 4-inch picket guardrail. It can just be a railing. We'd like to, we'll bring more details last time, but we'd like to keep the original design we had with One Congress, which was kind of the squiggle railing. And it aligns with the pattern in the pavers, which is a reference to meandering labyrinths as a journey through spaces. We can talk a lot about the metaphors and meanings behind that if you'd like. That's the reasoning behind that.
I'd like to ask you a question.
Yes.
When was One Congress approved?
It has been extended once, and I think the original approval was summer of 23 or spring of 23.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's a summer thing.
It's an yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering about how this works with, your previously approved project.
So that's a question we asked Peter Stiff. How should we proceed through both planning board and TAC and HGC? Because we want to treat this all as one development. And they said, Peter recommended that we submit it as one application with two parcels.
But
how does that affect the previously approved extension? I'm not exactly sure.
That's the whole thing. Well, I don't really know. If Peter says it's
reapproved at one time.
Right. Perhaps it is an all-new approval. I don't know.
Well, I would imagine if what you're presenting today as a combined does not get approved, it doesn't supersede the one that you already have, and you could proceed with the other one. If it's all approved, then it does supersede what you had before, and you have a new plan.
That would sound reasonable.
That sounds pretty
That's correct.
legal.
Yes.
Okay, good. We'll go with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We did, we are showing catenary lighting, which we had talked about a year and a half ago on High Street and Ladd. It continues down Haven Court, and we have brought that into the drawings just to bring that original vision all together in this drawing here.
Can I ask a question, please? The red squiggle.
Yes.
I don't even want to, I don't want to ask, but can you just explain it? I mean,
The
what their
material.
idea is?
John didn't want to know about the
They're lights. The historical point.
It's a paving pattern, and, well, so at the intersection of High, Ladd, and Haven, very briefly, you see the concentric circles, and that is a it's based on the labyrinth, the ancient labyrinths, which because this is what we're doing is we're trying to take a pedestrian or a blocked off alleyway and make it pedestrian instead of cars, make it pedestrian instead of nothing. So walking is pedestrian, and we're trying to encourage people to walk, and so the labyrinth and the squiggle is sort of an ancient tool that was used in monasteries and retreats to have people walk as they meditate. It was kind of a healing, meditative process. So we're trying to take the experience of a pedestrian walking through Portsmouth and make it a little bit more reflective and meaningful and purposeful, and give folks a reason and kind of make it fun to walk down here.
Are we going to have a place for sacrifices?
Is that why it's red?
Definitely not. No, absolutely not. We have flowers.
Why not?
It's a happy space.
What I was going to ask is this: a number of places around the country, whether it's
big
Logan, Miami, or whatever, and I realize this is interior concrete, so it may not even be feasible outside, but you'll see poured concrete and then embedded brass work, right? You know what I mean? But it's like appropriate for whatever it is. So like Logan, it's, you know, lobsters and jellyfish and starfish along the walkway. So had anything like that been considered versus this squiggle thing?
Well, so we considered alternative products, and with the exterior element and the slip, falls, etc., risk
Right.
factors, Terrence, who's our landscape architect, had spoken to Mark McNabb about this, and this product is more desirous and more safe for the pedestrian experience. So,
That said, there could be an aggregate as part of this pour,
Right.
which adds some
Which would have
texture
that
and
same kind
sparkle.
of a design
things.
aspect, like some kind of we're a seacoast town, right? So I'm just saying, like, if you had little seacoast things there, like,
Ooh, I'm going to get to that. We have thought about that, but we want to flip it vertical.
okay,
It could be. Yep. Anyway, that's
just throwing that out there.
yeah. Yep.
It's not going to be whaling, is it?
No whales.
Okay.
Possibly horses. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. All right.
Seahorses?
The seahorses. So these were the livery stables. Okay, so speaking of art, here's the art page. We have 3 art interventions. On the left is what we call the clasped hands. That is on the corner of Haven Court and Fleet Street. I do have some updated enlarged drawings of this. It would be a 3D sculpture hung off the building just by a few inches on brackets. And it's the idea of hands helping hands, you know, and the whole kind of idea of this building as a residential place for people to live and create a community in and of itself where people can help each other. So that is that. And I should mention in front of all this that art in this will go before the park committee, the Public Art Review Committee, on October 25th, I believe. 23rd. And so they will provide a recommendation on their findings to you, and then you can decide.
Right.
From what I understand.
Yes. I mean, I think in general, our role with art here is just to kind of review and make sure that nothing is so outrageous or inappropriate or anything, but we're not the art committee. Park is the art committee, so we will defer to them and, let you know or let them know. if
They're not going to be
anything's-
hands of famous people from Portsmouth.
Oh, look at, she's
It's a
got,
really good idea.
she's got something going.
Yeah.
So that's, we call that art number one. Art number two is kind of on the opposite corner of the building, also on Fleet, on the intersection of Fleet and the South Alley. It's actually on the wall of the South Alley. It's, and it's a metallic, a metal framed acrylic panels on 6-inch standoffs. Terrence is proposing some illumination behind that in some way. There may be, on all of these, there may be some, I don't know, lighting. There's some lighting on the building we'll get into in a little bit, but it's subtle. And then the third art piece to the right, these are on the tippity tops of the chimneys. We are proposing bas relief medallions or plaques, and those would have historic faces. We don't have the faces here, but
Like on Rockingham.
kind of, except it wouldn't be.
Would be Frank Jones.
It wouldn't be Frank Jones here. So perhaps next time we can come with some ideas. But some of the historic figures of this block were Haven, Jarvis, Ladd, Hislop in the 20th century, had the garage. Early back in the early 1700s, we had Mason, and we had the Bell Tavern. Who knows, there could be a bell. And of course, 200 years of carriages and livery stables. So there's a lot. We only have, I think, 3 of these chimneys, so we'll have to, if you pick our favorites.
Could I make a comment about this? I'm all for, I'm all for these bas relief. I'm just thinking that it's kind of wasted up there. That, why can't you bring them down to ground level somewhere or somewhere, because nobody is going to see these. I know you're going to know. You're going to know they're up there, and that's going to satisfy your inner emotions.
There's a whole book about looking up in Portsmouth. So
Yeah.
some people do see this.
But you
And
can't.
it's-
It's only an an alleyway, and you're gonna look like this, and my neck hurts right now doing that.
So some of the walking tours in Portsmouth do come down Sheaf Street, which you're familiar with from my being a neighbor. But across the street from us, there are 4 women depicted on the chimneys. And so these orators come through and tell the story of what they are. And the existing homeowner doesn't even know the history. It's
I
all
know the history.
folklore. And
Are they all women?
yes.
Are we going to go into this?
I'm not going to go into it, but this person only worked, by the, not the horoscope, but, he only worked on days where the sun and the moon and everything was in the proper alignment. Then he would work on those chimneys, and otherwise he wouldn't work on the chimneys. That was a long time ago. You weren't here.
I could be. I'm older than you think.
Okay.
Anyway, I was going to ask the question just to go along with what John said. I cited the medallions and everything. I don't know, if you're looking up basically 4 stories at that point and you've only got a 10-foot wide walkway, do you have the angle to see them? And that's just a question, because I do like what he said a lot. The other thing is, on the extreme right of the building where that hand sculpture is, we've totally lost the reference to what the building really was the Newberry building. So we can always have the Newberry sign and have the hands at the corner. I don't know. I'm just throwing something out. But
Mike, I wanted to ask about the Newberry sign.
yeah, I think we should have a Newberry sign
I was
somewhere.
wondering what's going to happen to
So
it and where's it going to go.
The sign itself, I am not sure, but the thought, as was mentioned last time, is to rename Haven Court to Newberry Way, and that there would be a street sign called Newberry Way on that corner, and possibly mounted to the building somehow.
What's the sign made of? Do you know?
The current existing sign?
The Newberry sign.
Because there's 2 signs, right? There's the red one, and then there's the
Just the
silver one.
letters, yeah.
I don't know.
It looks like metal with porcelain.
But we referencing the red one?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I realize that's horizontal left to right.
Yeah.
And we're talking vertical, but you could recreate it vertically.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of the hand thing, and that would really give some credence to where the whole project came from.
We also might think there's a J.J. Newberry there.
I do think that the sign is, at this point, historically important and should be given some consideration or something somewhere in your project.
You can have the middle medallion.
Maybe you
Jay
could
Newberry.
put it in the cement and walk on it. I'm less feeling that the Newberry sign is important, so that's just my opinion. But it seems to me that Newberry's was only there somewhere in the 40s, and before that, it was Prescott's pharmacy building. It's always been other buildings, and at one time it had something up on the top floor. It was because it was much bigger building at one time, right? It was 4 stories. The actual Congress Street building was. Yeah. So I'm less inclined to bend over backwards to save something that is pretty recent. But everybody else won't like it.
Recent history is worthy.
Yeah.
Well, we can.
I'm
toss
sorry,
around
is your
some ideas.
presentation done, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we're asking questions along the way, so
We're still talking about
Okay.
art.
let's keep it going.
But we can go back to building stuff.
Yes.
Keep them.
Still above the deck.
I don't think we have any changes to the roof from last time. So, okay. Do you have any questions? Keep going. Let's see. Just a little bit more detail and coordination with the existing conditions in terms of demoed area and new areas. We did take to heart the comments last time about preserving the grunginess versus the newness, and there were also comments about, well, is it too traditional? Is it too modern? Is it too grungy? Is it too nice? Is it too Portsmouth? Is it too Boston? So we've kind of holistically taken all those comments, and we are, I think it's kind of a middle ground. It's not a pure one way or the other. It's trying to do a few things. We're trying to marry it to the one Congress building, which started out pretty contemporary, but then we sort of toned it down to sort of a transitional, sort of half old, half new. And so that's why we're kind of doing that same thing going down the way. We are keeping half, approximately, of the grungy brick, and we're going to tooth in. The brick we demo, we'll use to tooth in the holes of the windows we're filling in, and sometimes it's just part of a window we're filling in because the new window goes next to it. So the remaining brick walls are still going to be a bit of a mess. They're going to show parts of windows that were filled in. The existing wall that's there is already like that, with pieces of filled in windows, and there's floating headers in the middle of nowhere, and there's mismatched bricks, and that will all still be visible. We're also lowering the hill, so we're going to be cladding a new foundation with old brick or new brick to match. So it's still going to be a little bit of a patchwork of brick. It's not perfect brick. The bay windows, they're bay windows, which is a traditional idea, but the way they're detailed, and when we get into a closer look, you'll see we're doing some things that are a little bit different. They are floating over glass, but we have introduced a granite base on the bottom, which pulls in the same materials we're using on the granite base on One Congress. We are taking that slice of the metal bay all the way up, as opposed to a traditional bay window is something that is stuck on to the side, like a little sticker. This is a vertical slice that interrupts the cornice and with reveals on the side. So these are details you would not see in a historic building, but it is still a bay window, which is a historic idea. We have done a little bit more detailing of the metal, and we're showing it as a dark metal here, but I brought samples. Is this a good time?
Sure.
Sure, samples. So copper is what we're thinking, but the preference is just the milled copper that would age naturally. And as we saw on the oval dome on the Bank of America building, it turned to brown within a year. This is a pre-patinaed brown. It's called Continental Bronze. It's also made by Revere Copper. If you can't wait that year, and the shiny bothers you, they do that. The cornice would be zinc, bent zinc, which also comes out a little bit shiny at first, but then it weathers to a dull, darker matte gray. This is the pink granite. It's called Carolina Coral. That was approved on One Congress. That's the primary field of granite on the first floor. This would be at the bottoms of the bay windows along the sidewalk. And there is a darker tone. This is the freeze band at the top of the pink granite on One Congress. It's only about 18 inches high. This would be the steps in the sitting bench detail that's flanking each side of the granite base. And we'll see that in detail as well.
Tracy, please be sure that when you use this granite on the ground, that it's sealed.
I have seen the problems
You
on
have seen
some
the problems? 'Cause
areas of
they are
Maple
really
Leaf.
getting extreme now.
It is shocking because we have granite all over the city, but that granite is disintegrating.
Apparently, it's waking up from the bottom side, according to
The
Yeah.
whole side of town is just, it looks like waves.
So there are all sorts of granite. Yeah, we'll make sure it's a high density granite that doesn't do that.
It's also the salt and
But not all granites are equal, for sure.
Right.
And even within a quarry, not all granite is equal. There's the granite at the top with the fissures that gets impurities, and so it's really important to get the good quality granite from the best locations in the quarry.
So this copper,
And then the treated wood.
neither of them would end up green.
In 30 years, they'd be green.
Not
That's what
like the
happens to
Hearth
copper.
building, or-
No, and in 30 years, that's going to be a different color than it is now too. But it won't come out of the shop green. It's going to come out of the shop like this. And if you look at again the oval dome on top of the Tuscan shop house, right? That was put on like this in the first month. It was bright and shiny, and within a few months to a year, it was dull. And if you look at it now, it's almost like a very, very dark bronze color. But in another 20 years, it's going to be green like the cupola of St. John's.
Yep.
So that's just what copper does. Yep. The two other samples I have. This is the slate. It's a gray-green slate by Vermont Slate. That would be at the top of the bays. Couple of the changes we did, and you'll see this on the details, we've added metal chimney caps to the chimneys, which would be a dark metal. It could be a copper if you prefer, or
Let's see where the slate is. Okay.
do we have a I think the next page, the next page, we have a large detail. Page 211. Yeah, so there's a better large detail. Slate at the top of the bay windows. We're looking at a sheet metal chimney cap. Those will probably have vents between the brick and the chimney cap. We haven't detailed that yet, but it will have, because they are functional chimney caps, gas fireplaces, we will need them to work as such. We'll bring details of that next time.
And the chimneys will be built of full white brick, or
Those are full brick
Yes.
chimneys, yes. There will probably be some structural support behind it, but, yeah. The other thing I brought, this is fun, this is the wall sconce. You see these linear, they look like little black pipes. They're not, and I believe this was previously approved on One Congress as well. These are solid glass prisms by Harberton Forge. And they actually, this is the top half, there's a metal collar, and then there's one on the bottom. I'll pass this around. It's don't drop it. But the light refracts up through and down. It's,
Where is this? On the,
so you see the vertical black lines that say sconce?
yes.
That's what those are. So they're to either side of the brick windows, going all the way up and down the alley.
The light is old.
Oh, they're beautiful.
The light behind it, nothing?
There's an LED light bulb behind the metal base to that. And we're proposing that we have the glass prism on the top and bottom so it shines up and down, but you can just have it shine up.
But not in the person's apartment.
No, it's mounted to the brick. And yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's just a decorative. It's not meant to illuminate the sidewalk at all for that. The Cantoneria lights overhead would do that job. This is just to provide an accent
They have them at
to
Lowe's
the
there.
brick.
Where'd you get these, at Lowe's or Home Depot?
Vermont, Hubbardton Forge, yeah, way up in the mountains. The elves make them.
I know we're having fun with.
I'll just take this home, put it in my work truck.
Elements, but one of the things that I'm struggling with, and I'm looking at your axiomatic view.
It's yours.
I'm trying to get a feel for how far out these bays protrude.
Excellent question. So there's a roof plan. Let's see if it's big enough.
That's the one I'm looking at.
Trying to
but
flood
I'm
us with
looking for something
toys.
else.
We do have a roof plan in here somewhere. Hold on. There it is. So on page H105, I guess the short answer to your question is approximately 3 feet.
What page was that?
105 is the roof plan, so you can see how the bays stick out beyond the face of the brick.
But that's the roof of the bays. Or is that the bay?
That is the roof of the bay.
Okay, so it's a little bit.
The face of the metal sits back from the roof by about 6 or 8 inches, so arm's length.
Yeah, that's what I was.
And other than, under them, that's where you have your little doors or sit? Is that your
Yep,
sit area?
and then the glass door front and the stoop and the bench gets recessed in below that.
So from depending on where you're standing on the street, either it looks like it's coming out by 3 feet, or if you're standing near one of those doorways, it could give a feel that it's protruding further because the doorway is recessed, and now the difference between the door and the it's now much
the
bigger.
overhang.
Okay.
And so that lower level there, below the bay windows, is going to be commercial?
Yes, it is all retail. This is a slightly updated rendering.
Are there any doors on the Haven Court side?
There are 2.
Yeah.
Like at the corner? Or?
I think there's 3. There's 3 stoops.
Yep.
They're not handicap accessible. The handicapped accessible. There are 4. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 handicapped accessible entrances at the corners of the building, but the doors in between the corners have anywhere from 1 to 4 steps because the
That's
floor. Yeah.
That's a problem.
Well, it's all one unit, so every
Oh, yeah.
every tenant space is handicapped accessible. It's just not that every single door of the whole building is handicapped accessible.
From Fleet Street.
So if I'm shopping, I'm walking up and down Haven Court.
Yep.
And I'm shopping, and I want to get into one of these shops that's in the middle of the building. Is there entry there, or do I have to go to a corner?
You have to go to the corner of the building. All corners are accessible. The middle of the wall is not accessible.
I'm not talking about
Yeah.
a handicap accessible. I mean accessible.
Oh, if you're not in a wheelchair, you
Yes.
can go through the door and in. Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
there are multiple openings along Haven Court if I want to shop in one particular shop. I don't have to go into a mall.
Correct.
Like entrance, but I can if I'm in a wheelchair or handicapped.
Exactly.
Okay. So you can get on both.
So a
ways.
door under every.
So each shop
Bay.
has 2 entries, one on the interior,
One
one
on
on
the
the
exterior.
exterior.
There is, so there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4 of those bays plus the corner. All but one currently have a door.
Okay.
And if you start from the right and go left, 1, 2, 3, the third one currently doesn't have a door because that is the worst case scenario where the floor level and the grade of the sidewalk are so huge that you'd end up with a very long stairway,
All
so
right.
we didn't do it at that location.
I'm glad you're aware of it. Because we have had buildings come in front of us on Bow Street with all of those doors, going into the restaurant and such. And each one of them was its own individual problem. I don't know if you were on the board then, but it was a real mess. They just assumed that, you could just walk into the doors and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, Portsmouth is kind of hilly. It's challenging, for sure. Okay. Oh, last thing I want to mention on those is that we've also added brick header details. They're flat arch soldier course brick headers and granite sills where we have windows in the brick. It's hard to see on that scale, but they do show up in the renderings and the details. And I'm excited to tell you about Fleet Street, so if you want to go to the
Anybody
next
have any
page. Okay, so Fleet Street, one of the comments that really hit home was that, boy, Fleet Street looks like a different building than Haven Court. So we, in addition to making the refinements on Haven Court, we've made a few more refinements to Fleet Street, where originally we were just not going to touch it and leave it. So at the spandrel between the second floor and third floor windows, that's currently this precast pebbly concrete that was put in the early 90s. We'd like to clad that in copper to match the bay windows with the same detail and panel relief that we have going across. And the other detail is just a slight shaping of the copper awnings of the 3 storefronts down below, where we would tip in the corners and tilt up the bottom to allude to the bay window geometry we have around the corner, so that it all sort of ties together. And the left and right are, those are entrances on the left and right storefront bays. The one on the right is an existing entrance. The one on the left is an entrance, but we're shifting it to the left so that it aligns with the windows. As it is currently, it's offset by like 3 feet to the right. It doesn't align. We thought it would look better aligned. And we put a transom window on top of it to get some more light. Those awnings at the left and right entry bays are glass with metal bars, metal brackets. We're proposing that it's basically a similar detail to what we have previously approved on High Street at the entrance canopy. So they're these are, with the exception that they're tilted up instead of down, so that they all match the same geometry going across. It would be transparent glass with a metal frame. And that would signify that's the entrances, so pedestrians would know you go in there. They can't really go into the 3 center storefronts because the floor is quite a bit higher than the sidewalk.
Can we see
Those
that
locations.
sketch?
Yep. And that's what was previously approved on High Street. So this would be similar, it's just the angle of the tilt would be different, and then perhaps the color of the metal slightly updated.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for Fleet Street. The only changes on the south elevation were the materials of the metal to match what we're doing on the other sides. And last but definitely not least, Congress Street. We've made a number of refinements on Congress Street, and the comments last time were spot on. The proportions were a little squatter, fatter than the historic facade that we're trying to bring back to life. So we did a few things to make that more accurate to history. We narrowed the width of the windows, so they're narrower than we had previously shown. We've adjusted the heights, the vertical spacing of the windows, to allow more brick in between the second and third floor, and then we also raised the cornice fairly significantly by 4 feet, 7 inches from what it is now, to more closely align with the height of the historic cornice, which is a little bit higher. It also allows that significant band of brick between the top window and the cornice that was missing before. Helps make the building feel a little lighter. And then the other thing we're changing is we're rebuilding the sign band. The one on the drawing on the left is what's there now, and you can see it's very thick. It's very tall. In the historic drawings, it was much more thin and delicate. So we're going to rebuild that in the thinner, delicate manner. That there's a dark metal band just below the white sign band and the glass below that we would introduce. That's the difference. That's where we raised it up. So that would be a filler piece of painted trim.
Do you know, is there anything behind that sign panel? Or is it,
Like granite,
yeah?
The
cast iron.
You've got
It's
some
not-
cast.
It's not aligned with the floor behind it,
Yeah.
really. I would expect it's just wall.
Okay. It was just out of curiosity. I just-
Well, it has to have something.
Well,
Well, look at the size of those windows.
the floor
Almost
above
had to be
it.
brick though, right?
So the biggest challenge with this is the second floor level is really quite high, and it's a subtle detail we did is we lowered the iron balconies by 4 inches. Previously, the floor of the balcony was level with the windowsill, and we were just having trouble getting the proportions to look right. So we dropped the balconies just by 4 inches, but we really can't do it anything more than that because that second floor is where it is. But it's a good 4 or 5 feet above the top of the street level glass. There's a ton of space in there.
Looking at the historic picture there from 1860, it looks like you're consistent there with the balconies. My question is, if I look at the current rendering there on the left, and I like what you did with the windows, but where does the floor of the third floor start? Like I can't count the rows of brick, but let's say there's 10 courses of brick between the second and third floor windows. Approximately where is the floor of the third floor?
So on that rendering, if you look to the building to the right with the concrete and the big black window, the top of the window is pretty much where the third floor is. It's about a foot below that white trim band that goes along the windowsills.
So those windows have to be safety glass, probably.
Yeah, they're
So
They're
they're
all
almost
gonna
like
be-
ceiling to floor, kind of.
yeah. They go right up to the ceiling.
So we did have some written comments. I don't know if you got the comment, the letter that was sent to us.
Yes.
And you did get it from Elizabeth Brown.
Oh, no, I got the synopsis of the meeting notes from last time. No, I did not see
No,
that there was a letter.
It came from the
It just
public.
came.
And the one thing that she mentioned, she's, very aware. And she also includes a lot of photographs, is that your sign band, and I'm not sure if this is the latest iteration of it or not, but it's very modern looking. And she's wondering, and I'm kind of agreeing, is why does it look so much like something you would see at the mall, except for it doesn't have a grate that gets closed every night.
These are the existing conditions. So
You're changing it.
We're,
Are
the
you
only,
ch-
yeah,
Are you
the,
changing the sign band?
the only thing we're changing is the vertical height. We're not
Right, so
changing
you're
the.
changing the sign band.
Sure.
Okay. Having said that, that means, guess what? We have a say over it.
Okay.
Okay, so it does look to be kind of modern, so it's the one thing that she did write in her letter that, that I agree with. You've made, every effort to be traditional on the second floor, and, you have, the rails and the window caps and the cornice and,
I think-
everything, and yet, but down here on the
no,
first
you're
floor.
right. You're right. I think what's missing, if I'm looking at this little teeny tiny historic photo, are the so
Look at this one right here.
it's the verticals.
This one here,
almost like a transom above.
everything looks,
In that rendering, it looks like one flat board. It's
Yes.
not. It has a lot of relief, which shows better in the elevation detail. We will fix the rendering
Okay.
to show the sculptural moldings on that, but yeah, I can see where that would come from.
To expand a little bit here on what John said, if you look up at that circa 1860 picture and blow it up, that sign band,
It's very simple.
it looks like it's somewhat smaller, but also there's like some kind of a fascia board about a third of the way down. And that forces the lettering to be smaller and less modern looking, mall-like also.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you could play with that.
You should have that
yeah.
anyways.
Great.
You
Okay.
should have that.
Point taken. Yeah, we will look at further refining that to. We're going through such efforts above. We might as well do the whole thing.
I'm thinking really, if you dig into this thing, that you're going to find some details there, because that old picture is, I don't know what that is. Is that granite or what? In the old one up there.
That could be behind this.
It'll be interesting to see when you're digging in there what's in that space.
Yeah. What's fun?
Right, might not be anything, but,
It is.
all right, is there
Okay.
anyone have any other questions? Yes, Martin?
Yes. I want to sort of refine what I said last time. I do like 80% of what you're doing. I think it's wonderful. I think what you're doing on Congress Street is excellent. The fact that you're turning these dark alleys into actual people, places, and placemaking, fantastic. I can't say enough good things about that. But when it comes to the Newberry building, we'll call it, and the alleyway, I feel like we're dealing with an existing building, and that there should be some level of preservation that's missing in what's occurring. At this level of what you're doing, I don't even know why you would preserve one brick on that wall, because it's pretty much changed entirely. I just feel that as an existing building, you should preserve more of the context that's there. It's raw, but it's been part of the language here for decades. And when it comes to the red Newberry sign, I think it has to remain where it is. And the cornice there, that's new. That's a change in the history. That's never been there. I just feel the wall that whole area needs to be honored more than it is. It shouldn't just be obliterated and a new face put on it. So I would keep the sign. To me, that sign it's like the Citgo sign in Boston. It has an iconic quality to it. I know it's not high-end art or high-end design, but it's been there. It's part of the language of Portsmouth. You kind of expect it when you turn the corner off of, I forget what street you're going on the Fleet. You see it there, and that's the kind of thing that I think is important for preservation. So, given that, I mean, the fact that you're changing the slope of the alleyway and all that, I think is fantastic and wonderful. I just think that we really should look at this as an existing building. What you're doing on Fleet Street, I have no problem with. Perfect. I think you're really making some great changes. Some of the artwork, I just find that they're huge gestures, that they're not very appealing. That, like the big squiggle that looks like a question mark. To me, that is totally out of scale, relevant to nothing, and to me it just seems like a glib gesture, So, I'm not. I know art is not our strong suit here, but to me it just doesn't seem right for the building. So, anyway, I'm very pleased with everything. I just feel like that in my mind, we should come at this as more of a preservationist attitude. Keep the sign where it is. I think it's an icon, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll let the art committee review the art and everything. I am excited about I do think the bas relief plaques, especially that they'll be on the side of the parking garage. So it actually gives you something from the parking garage to look at, and people will be able to get up kind of close. But yeah, I think this alleyway, it's been an area to go to the bathroom my whole life. Like, it's never been a pleasant spot. I knew a guy that used to sleep there because he was homeless. The history of this alleyway, the fact that we're making it so people can enjoy it, I am all for. I understand the sign, and some people are going to be nostalgic, some people might not. Perhaps, maybe, the sign gets included, like, vertically, I don't know, at that edge next to the... it's not a make or break for me on the J.J. Newberry sign. There's a lot of other stuff that's been there longer, but I think it's just such a big improvement. And like I said, this has been an eyesore my entire life, so. Yeah.
That's great. If I could start off with HN 301, when you're talking about the different coppers, maybe it's just my eyes, but the rendering there, it looks like going down the alleyway, it's the dark copper, and on Fleet Street, it's the bright copper. So whatever you pick, I think it'd be great if it was consistent, alleyway and Fleet Street. I'll leave that at that. The squiggle, I'm going to agree with Martin. It feels just completely out of place. And I would like to see some rendering of a Newberry sign. And I was kind of playing around with it here while I'm listening to everybody. But there's all kinds of... The Newberry stores didn't have just one sign format. They had different sign formats. Some were cursive, some were block letters, some were like we got here. Now, truth be known, I didn't find a vertical one, but I only looked for about 30 seconds. There's got to be one somewhere. So what I'm getting at is, instead of that, if you guys are sold on that modern art hand-in-hand thing, there's got to be room for it on the inside somewhere. Yeah. And then that would allow some version of the Newberry sign on the outside, because after all, that is what that is. And so I think that's important. And like I said earlier, the squiggly thing, maybe you can do something with some kind of an aggregate that if you want something there, leading people down, well then maybe something like Seacoast appropriate, not just like, squiggly. But I think you've done a great job of improving something that has truly needed to be improved. I think the copper tones down the modernness of, what it would be if it was the green. And so on the whole, I think you've done a great job. And then back out on Congress Street, my other remark was the modernness of that sign. And when you take that off, you may find the granite there from the old. Nobody knows what you're going to find. But if it's made kind of like that 1860 picture, it looks less modern. And you put so much work into railing and the window spacings.
Thank you. Okay.
And I'm going to shut up now.
Anybody else want to?
Could the red Newberry sign go along the cornice of Fleet Street? Yeah, that was Newberry too. No?
We will look at options for continuing its life in some way.
It is an icon at this point. It's that hasn't been, front and center, but it is kind of hidden in there somewhere. So finding a place to keep it.
Like, what was the seafood restaurant that used to be on Route 1 before?
Yokins.
Yokins, thanks. The sign's still there.
Yeah.
Been gone for 15 years. But the sign's
That's a real.
That was a different,
So, I I'm still stuck on the Haven Court facade. It's growing on me a little bit, but there's still just this, and I love what you've done with Fleet Street to try to make the two talk to each other better. But and I love what Fleet Street looks like right now. But I still have a problem with these bays, and I think part of it may be a little bit of what Martin is responding to, is that it's taking an industrial wall and making it look residential, which is of course what is happening inside. So I get where you're going, but it is almost like not only are you changing the use of the building inside, but you're also changing the language of the building on the outside. And so I'm just struggling with that, because from a preservation point of view, it's kind of going a little bit far. On the other hand, we also say if you're going to change something, don't change it to make it look like something fake. So I really am torn, and if I had something to recommend to you, I would, other than just saying, I don't like it. But I'm lost to what to recommend to you. Part of me would say, take Fleet Street and just turn the corner. And that way you are at least recognizing, or you're continuing the language of the outside of this building from when it was built. And I know that you want to get light into the building, and I don't know if the bays give you more light than having a row of large fenestration there. So that's just, I'm still having a difficult time with one side of the building looking like one thing, and the other side of the building looking like something completely different. But everything else?
Okay. I disagree with that.
I hear what you're saying, but what we have presently is two different look. If you look at what is on Haven Court now and what is on Fleet Street, they don't speak to one another.
No, and I agree with you. But what's on Haven Court right now is almost like a blank canvas. It almost has no vernacular other than warehouse vernacular.
And we don't want to recreate a warehouse.
And I'm not saying recreate a warehouse. I definitely recognize that it has to be something different if just to make the building useful. But I think you could take the vernacular of Fleet Street and you could turn the corner and still do what you want on the inside. But this is a work session, so it's just people throwing out.
I feel like we're taking like the most dead alleyway in Portsmouth. For the last 40 years, this alleyway has been like nothing pleasant happens in this alleyway. So I do not want to preserve the history of this alleyway. It's very different. I think activating it is the right thing to do. But yeah,
I think what I'm trying to convey, and maybe some others are trying to convey, is that what is there now is part of our history and should read through the new changes. It is a warehouse wall. It is nothing special. But it is part of the context. It's the honesty about it. It's the honest statement that, we're not facelifting this point to where you go, this is too much. This is way over the top. What they did to the language of this, we're not trying to honor the alley. We're trying to honor the building, and the building was part of our context. It just is. Like it or not, it just is, and we should recognize it and live with that fact, and find a happy medium where we're not fakeifying this thing to where we're dressing it up way beyond what it ever was and creating a new history and just obliterating what was there. I think the number one thing I hear from people is, I don't recognize Portsmouth anymore. And this is not recognizable. This has never been there. And, I think that's my biggest hangup with it. It's just recreating history and not honoring anything that was there once.
I am going to repeat what you all said kind of earlier this evening in the public hearings, and we respect that that is your opinion. I believe that the development team is committed to this design concept, and I don't want to mislead that we're going to go back to the drawing board and draw something that is more appealing to you. I believe that we are at the point this evening that we are willing to proceed and request a public hearing at the next meeting and present and see where you all are at that point. Not to say that there won't be some refinements and some more investigative work into the banding of Congress Street, but I don't want to mislead that you are going to have a completely new package next month.
I appreciate that, and I don't want to mislead that I can support this.
I understand.
I think one of the things that's happened with this project, in my opinion, is that it's like we keep adding more and more and more details and more textures and more colors and things like that, which is, I think, wonderful in a lot of ways for a new construction building. But it's almost like when you're working with a historic building, sometimes less is more. And so it's, I think this is a great design. I don't think it's, I think it's appealing. I think it's, obviously quality design and materials and things like that. I think that it's just sometimes when I'm taking a look at this rendering here, it's like it's such a contrast to what is there now that it's like a birthday cake. It's just like it's got a lot of stuff to it that is.
I like birthday cake.
Yeah, a lot of people do. And it may come to no surprise that I don't really like icing. But I think that's just some of the reaction that you're hearing and that I'm understanding. This is somewhat of what I'm feeling as well. So I don't know if there's a way in these refinements that we can kind of simplify it a little bit more so it's not quite as busy. But again, you're dealing with opinions here, so take it as you will. Anybody else? Yes,
All right,
Dr. Ben.
I think you've done a nice job on Fleet Street and the front, and that is more historic. And we're complaining about the back, which never had tours going down it. Rick knows what really was going on back there. And I think you have the right, that the least part of the building that people are going to see, to develop it the way you're developing it. And although it's not historic, it's such a bad alley and up against the parking garage that I think you need that snap. And I would approve something like that.
And I'm just going to elaborate a little bit. I'm probably repeating what I said before, but if you look at that and just it's not even shown in that rendering,
Yeah,
but if you
that's
get rid of that
wrong.
hand-holding hand thing and find some way to stick some kind of a Newberry sign there,
Yeah.
and then get rid of that squiggly thing,
Yeah.
then it all looks more historical and it all blends more. And I'm just going to say this, so I'm going to be way out here on this because I wasn't even on board back then.
Yeah.
Hearth is probably the most talked about building in town, and not always from a good standpoint. On the one hand, it's a beautiful building, but my opinion only, it doesn't belong in the middle of downtown Portsmouth. And I know a lot of people would not like to see that repeated. I think you've gone a long way to making something, as Rich said, that was negative for 40 years. I think you've gone a long way to making it positive. And I think with a little tweaking, you're going to have something fantastic. And what you really want to hear is the public saying, wow, we love this. We want to walk down that court that you couldn't even walk on before. That's what you want at the end of the day. And you want people to say, wow, McNabb did a great job with this. And you have done a good job with a little tweaking. But this is my opinion.
Yeah. Could I
Okay,
jump
yes,
in
of
one more
course.
time? There's no way that we could compare this with the Hearth building.
Oh, I know that. I'm just
Okay.
throwing it out there.
All right. So, it's an unfortunate, thing to throw out there, though, There's no way that this is, it's square, It has sharp corners. I agree with Rich that the alleyway needs everything it can get. If we're going to call this new construction, let's just call it new construction. Let's just say that we ripped down Newberry's, okay? And to build this, what we're looking at, or something similar. I really don't have any significant problems besides what I've discussed with the sign bracket on Congress Street. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Any other last-minute issues? Anything that you want to respond to while we're in there?
There's a lot of helpful comments here, and we will take those to heart, and we will continue to refine this.
Thank you.
This has been helpful. It's a big building. There's, this is really like 4 projects.
It's a
in
huge
one.
project.
So, I appreciate your thoughtfulness and your insights, and we've learned from that. We'll continue to do so. We do want to move ahead and incorporate these quickly, mostly because we have the one Congress previous approval still hanging. We don't want this to impact that, and we want it all to move along. So with your approval and permission, we'd like to come back for a public hearing next month.
Okay, Bob's your
Reagan,
uncle.
do you think when they bring in the approval next time, we should have full drawings of all?
We will have all the details and much more detail than we have here. Yep.
Do you need a work session public hearing or just a public hearing?
Can we do that?
Just was
We're
asking.
happy with a public hearing,
Okay.
if you're happy with that.
That's great. That's great. No, it is this next month.
Yes.
No, it is a huge and complicated project, and I think like everybody has said, the majority of it is very positive. I think everybody's feedback is very positive on the majority of this. So there's just a few different opinions, but good job wrangling this giant project. So, all right.
I mean, the Newberry sign, if left on that alley, is going to wipe out 2 bays, a couple windows, basically half of the 3rd floor, just to have that sign. Is there any way that you could mount the sign up on the roof as a sign, with...
Do you remember the old photos of 3 Congress, the Bank of America building, when it was WHEB? They had that huge billboard on top of the sign facing Market Square. So WHEB.
That's right.
Anything's possible. We will look at some options.
Great.
I mean, as far as like old signs on historic buildings, there is also an example in Exeter of the Ioka. And that has gone off to Ohio to be in a sign museum, which is a good thing.
Signs come and go with the businesses.
That's what I was
They're
trying to
much more ethereal than the buildings.
There's still a Newick sign under the drop ceiling inside the fair landing. It's perfectly preserved because it's up above the drop ceiling, so it's
That's pretty cool.
it's like brand new.
If you care about preservation, you don't want the Ioka sign in a museum. You want it on the building. Yeah.
Well, it's not.
It's not, and that's sad.
And yes.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, there are a couple little things that I wanted to discuss. One, just make sure that everybody got the email I sent out about the guidelines. I think the example that I sent out, I really like that, and I think that we can work with that. But please do review, because it's a good opportunity for any other chapters of their existing guidelines that need refinement, further explanation, updating. So encourage you to do that. And then one other quick thing I wanted to bring up too, that Mr. Adams brought to my attention last week about 491 Marcy Street was just that when we had reviewed that and they presented the application, and I don't think that we all had the correct information. Mr. Adams went back and saw that the reveal on the wood siding on the facade of that building was actually 2.5 inches.
No, I know it.
It's really small.
That's new siding, but, you know,
Right.
I
And
understand.
it's new siding, and it's a recreation, or a creation, not even a recreation, because we don't know what the original siding might have been. But I think he was surprised by that sort of, not misinformation, but just there wasn't that information at our meeting. And so, and I think that was partially on them, but it's partially on us too. Like we need to make sure that we have all of that information when we're visiting the site. I don't mean to say bring your measuring tape wherever you go, but just I guess reminding. And I will admit that I did a drive-by on that one, so I also want to make sure that we all are doing our prep work.
I have no idea why they're even changing that siding, because
Yeah,
it is
it
so
seems
new.
fine.
I mean, the windowsills are rotted, okay, I get that. There's some, they left some old stuff in it, and there are problems.
Yeah.
But the wood siding on the front is not the problem.
No. Anyway, so
Anyway.
just so that we are covering, doing all of our work as well as relying on the applicants, just
What was the
kind of reminder.
disheartening thing about that also was to have the neighbors come out in support of it, the project.
Well, that building does need a lot of help. It's true that building needs a lot of help.
And if you get
I
hardy
had
board.
one question.
Yes.
I know in the past we have mentioned redefining the map to
Yes.
reflect just the lots like on Middle Street and on. So I've had a resident reach out, who's trying to build a new home, not on Middle Street, but on Orchard, yeah. But he's included in the historic district because of the old lots,
Yep.
So that might be, I think he's coming to the council on the 7th, but
I think
it might be being sent back to us.
great. I think that's been one of my goals
Yeah.
since doing this. So it might be a good time to actually
That's what
work with the planning department to get that redefined now. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask if there was a plan to,
It's been on the list,
Yeah, it's
but
on the honey-do list.
let's,
yeah.
the squeaky wheel.
Yeah. When I came up, I was
So-
like, oh, I know there's intentions to change
There are
that.
intentions.
So,
So
And we've
we'll
been
do it.
working with that applicant on that process and
Okay,
trying to, help them as much as
Yeah,
possible.
yeah.
It's
I
going
just
to
wanted to
be,
give them
it's going to be
forward
one of
heads
those, 3 hearing ordinance change thing, because we have to change
definitely.
the
Oh, yeah,
map and
yeah,
all that
yeah,
stuff, but
definitely.
we should get it started.
yeah.
So,
You have a
Anything
time
else?
schedule for
The guidelines.
the guidelines?
the guidelines?
I wanted to really look at it next week and have it, we can put it as an item on our agenda, so we can kind of talk about that and have anybody, even from the public, who wants to say, these things need to be included, or whatever, but, it will be a semi-public process, and that we'll get a draft, we'll all look at it, we'll put it out for review, but
What's next week's agenda look like?
it's pretty quick.
It's much shorter. Just a
Okay.
few kind
Good.
of, items that would have dragged us out. to
Just
about 11.
postpone everything.
Yeah.
We'll do the guidelines.
Total replacement of the existing guidelines
No.
with a new draft?
No. The existing guidelines will remain. If you see any chapters or anything that you feel like needs updating or changing or refining, fine, but we are going to have an entirely new chapter written for us about, that focuses on sustainability, climate resiliency, all of these things. So the example that I sent out by email that Isaac sent out to you is a very good example. It's the same consultant who wrote our guidelines that we would like to use to write this extra chapter. So. Should be good.
Raising houses, front stoops,
That we can refer back to the special.
Demolition committee.
No, the what's it called? But we had the sea level rise sort of committee that we did.
sustainability. It
And-
just,
And flood resistance.
I don't think we really, dealt with it, but.
No, that's why we can actually put it on paper now and incorporate it a
Yeah.
little bit better. All right, anything else anybody needs to bring up? Great, all right. I will take a motion to.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. We'll see you all next week.
I just want to